Shinbei's computer unexpectedly featured a remarkable game titled Coast Guard Simulator, which operated in tandem with reality. The retired naval vessels acquired within the game would manifest in the real world, including the Nanshan, a Type 055 destroyer retired in 2042, now transferred to the Coast Guard. The Fujin, the first electromagnetic aircraft carrier of the Dragon Nation retired in 2060, also reassigned to the Coast Guard. And the Type 076 amphibious assault ship, the world's first drone aircraft carrier retired in 2062, now under the Coast Guard's purview. Observing the Coast Guard's possession of a dual aircraft carrier fleet, the Navy could no longer contain their frustration. How could the Coast Guard have aircraft carriers when they did not? The clock struck 10 at night in July, where the humid warmth of Haikou enveloped the air. In Xiangshan District, within an aging residential building constructed in the 1990s, Shinbei had just emerged from a shower, his hair still damp, as he settled before his computer. To his surprise, a new game icon labeled Coast Guard Simulator appeared on his desktop. When had he downloaded this? Shinbei had no recollection. It was likely a rogue program bundled with another software. With a disdainful curl of his lips, he hovered the mouse over the icon, preparing to delete it when the game launched itself. Loading reality map. Loading Dragon Nation Coast Guard data. Loading technology tree. Loading complete. A solemn declaration. This game employs the most advanced virtual reality technology, perfectly synchronized with the real world. Any actions or decisions made by players will have corresponding effects in reality. Players are urged to operate with caution and play responsibly. This game is intended for adults only. Minors should play under adult supervision. Enjoy your gaming experience. What nonsense affecting reality? Shinbei scoffed, utterly unconvinced. Modern game developers had become increasingly outrageous in their promotional tactics. He proceeded to delete the game. However, at that moment, an opening CG animation began to play. The scene unveiled a vast expanse of azure sea, shimmering under the sun as if adorned with countless diamonds. A majestic, modern Coast Guard vessel cut through the waves, white froth roaring on either side, against a backdrop of the endless blue sky and ocean, reminiscent of a magnificent painting. As the camera drew closer, the words Dragon Nation Coast Guard gleamed brightly on the ship, exuding an aura of solemnity and authority. Impressive graphics and lighting effects rivaled those of Hollywood blockbusters. This CG sequence was enough to overshadow 99% of the games available on the market. Shinbei's interest peaked. He hesitated to delete the game. At that moment, a narrator's voice resonated. The Dragon Nation Coast Guard, heralded as the Second Navy, comprises 6 major Coast Guard brigades, safeguarding 960,000 square kilometers of blue territory. Before the promotional video could conclude, he hastily skipped it. Please enter your information. Skip. Shinbei, disinterested in filling out details, opted for the default selections. After a series of confirmations, the game commenced. 2012, 10:12 p.m. Dragon Nation Coast Guard Sanya Command, Sanya Port Base. 2 lines of text appeared, followed by an image. The lighting was dim, obscuring clarity, with only the sound of crashing waves audible. Moments later, a light Emergito patrol boat with a searchlight sweeping across the water. Shinbei clicked the mouse to adjust the view, revealing the port dock. In the shadows, a naval vessel's silhouette loomed, partially concealed by the night. Further away, the twinkling lights of the city formed a distant outline. Why is the visibility so poor? Can it be brightened? Shinbei grumbled. Suddenly, a notification chimed. Alert! You have a new ship awaiting acceptance. New ship? Curiosity piqued. Shinbei clicked. A window popped up. Ship transfer details. Ship type, Type 055 Guided Missile Destroyer. Hull number, 101. Description, this vessel officially entered service on January 12, 2020, as the Dragon Nation's first 10,000 ton-class destroyer. After 22 years of service, it was honorably retired in 2042. According to the latest regulations, this vessel is now being transferred to the Coast Guard Sanya base. Do you accept? A Type 055 destroyer, commissioned in 2020 and retired in 2042. Presently, it was 2012. How could the game present future naval ships? This was pure science fiction. However, Shinbei quickly dismissed his incredulity. It was just a game, there was no need to take it too seriously. With that thought, he clicked on the Type 055 Guided Missile Destroyer icon, unveiling detailed specifications of the futuristic warship. Type 055 Guided Missile Destroyer. Length, 180 meters. Width, 23 meters. Full load displacement, 13,000 tons. Weapon systems, 130 mm single-barrel naval gun, 112-cell universal vertical launch system capable of loading YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missiles, Longsword series cruise missiles, etc., 1130 Closian weapon system, 24-cell HQ-10 surface-to-air missiles. Impressive. The future technology was astonishing. Not to mention, the included YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missile, according to the game's description, could obliterate an aircraft carrier with a single shot. Though merely a game, the thought alone stirred excitement. Chen Bei scrutinized the 3D model of the Type 055, admiring its sleek lines and futuristic design, resembling a manifestation of violent beauty. The imposing presence of this steel behemoth resonated even through the screen, especially with its 13,000-ton displacement. In comparison, the current mainstay of the Dragon Nation's navy, the Type 051 destroyer, had a full load displacement of nearly over 3,600 tons. Chen Bei had recently perused military magazines, retaining a semblance of these statistics compared to the Type 055. The Type 051 appeared like a younger sibling before an elder, a stark contrast. Even the renowned American Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, their most formidable vessels, barely reached 9,500 tons. The celebrated Ticonderoga-class cruisers, which the Americans took pride in, exceeded just slightly over 10,000 tons. In light of this comparison, the virtual Type 055 stood as a maritime dominator. According to the game's parameters, this Type 055 was the largest and most powerful destroyer globally. Regrettably, it was merely a game. If such a colossal vessel existed in reality, the Navy would undoubtedly ascend to unprecedented heights overnight. With these thoughts swirling in his mind, Chen Bei confirmed the acceptance. Meanwhile, over 100 kilometers away at the Sanya Coast Guard base, the night breeze carried the briny scent of seawater, brushing against a patrol boat stationed on the periphery of the port. On the deck, a young patrolman named Jiang Bin held a pair of binoculars, his gaze sweeping the surrounding waters in conjunction with the searchlight. Suddenly, Jiang Bin noticed a disturbance on the sea surface 100 meters away. Upon closer inspection, the water appeared to be churning, as if an invisible cauldron was boiling the seawater from beneath. "There's something amiss, Captain," Jiang Bin shouted at the top of his lungs. Shortly after, Captain Li Wei and several crew members emerged from the cabin. "What's going on? Captain, look." Jiang Bin pointed towards the tumultuous water 100 meters out. "There's movement beneath the surface." Li Wei, with a pair of binoculars hanging from his neck, lifted them to his eyes and gazed at the distant water. Through the lenses, Li Wei observed the increasingly violent churn of the water, forming a vortex that grew larger, sending waves crashing and causing their patrol boat to sway. Chapter 2. An unknown warship emerges from beneath the water. Something is beneath the surface. All hands on alert. Li Wei, seasoned and quick-witted, issued the command immediately. No sooner had he spoken than a long black metallic rod erupted from the center of the swirling vortex, piercing the night sky. The rod ascended higher and higher. Then, a more alarming sight unfolded. Before the astonished gazes of several patrolmen, an enormous black silhouette began to rise slowly from below the water's surface. "Captain, it's a warship. It's a warship," one of the crew shouted. Indeed, there was no mistake, a warship was surfacing from beneath the waves. A colossal warship. It emerged from the depths in a manner that defied the laws of physics, much like a submarine. With a thunderous roar, torrents of seawater cascaded from the warship's broad deck, creating a spectacular curtain of water. As the entire vessel surfaced, it seemed to momentarily hover in midair before crashing down heavily onto the sea. This sudden impact generated towering waves that surged towards the patrol boat with the force of a tidal wall. "Everyone hold on tight." Li Wei was the first to react, shouting loudly. The patrol boat was instantly lifted and thrown down by the colossal wave, throwing everyone on board into disarray, struggling to maintain their footing. Yet, including Captain Li Wei, everyone was too mesmerized to care about their precarious situation, fixated on the steel behemoth that had appeared out of thin air. Stunned, they could hardly comprehend the sight. A warship had emerged from the depths. The scene was bizarre beyond belief. Even a science fiction film would dare not depict such a spectacle. It defied every fundamental law of physics established by Sir Isaac Newton. Patrolman Jiang Bin, with his mouth agape, appeared dazed, muttering to himself in disbelief. So massive indeed, the warship was gargantuan. Before them was a true colossus, akin to a moving mountain of steel, silently dominating the water's surface. In its shadow, their modest patrol boat, spanning just a few dozen meters, seemed insignificant, like a mere speck of dust. Even the 818-class Coast Guard vessel, displacing nearly 4,000 tons and docked at the pier, appeared as a mere juvenile in the presence of this leviathan. It was Captain Li Wei who first regained his composure from the shock, shouting out, "Quick! Sound the alarm." The next instant, the shrill and piercing alarm shattered the tranquility of the harbor, reverberating throughout the entire Coast Guard base. Chen Bei heard the alarm blaring from within his game. A patrol boat was sounding the alarm. Beep, 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 beep. At that moment, his phone vibrated on the table, displaying Fatty, an old high school classmate. "Hello, Fatty," Chen Bei answered the call. "Xiao Bei, want to grab a late-night snack? Same place, barbecue stall." Chen Bei glanced at the time. It was already 10 o'clock, and he was indeed feeling a bit hungry. "Wait for me. They'll be there soon," Chen Bei replied before hanging up. After the call, Chen Bei stretched and stood up. The alarm within the game grew increasingly piercing. Several searchlights turned towards the warship. Chen Bei paid it no mind, dismissing it as an in-game event, and and casually turned down the volume on his computer. He didn't log out of the game, planning to continue playing after his late-night snack. Grabbing a pack of cigarettes and his motorcycle keys, he stepped outside wearing a pair of slippers. He left with an air of nonchalance. Meanwhile, at the Sanya base, chaos ensued as they entered the highest state of alert. The engine of patrol boat number 003 emitted a deep rumble as it cautiously approached the enormous shadow on the water. Captain Li Wei and a dozen sailors stood tense on the deck, their weapons gripped tightly. The atmosphere was thick with tension. The mysterious giant ship loomed in the darkness, like a dormant ancient behemoth, silent and imposing, instilling a sense of suffocating pressure. Simultaneously, in the commandant's office at the base, Commander Zhou Jinghua was tidying up documents on his desk, preparing to head home. Upon hearing the alarm, his first instinct was to grab the red secure phone on his desk and dial the command center. This is Zhou Jinghua. What's happening? Commander, we have a major situation. Just now a warship of unknown nationality has emerged from the depths of the harbor. The voice of the aide came through, urgent and frantic. What did you say? Zhou Jinghua furrowed his brow. The aide, usually composed, was speaking in a disjointed manner, like an inexperienced rookie. Commander, an unidentified warship has appeared in the harbor. A foreign warship had breached the base? Zhou Jinghua jolted upright, instinctively asking, is it an American vessel? No, the aide replied, the unidentified warship is flying our flag. What? Zhou Jinghua was completely bewildered. What was going on? A ship from our navy? Which one? How could it enter our base without prior notice? Commander, the warship emerged from beneath the water. I know you might think I'm talking nonsense, but you should come to the command center and see for yourself. I'm on my way. Zhou Jinghua hung up the phone, swiftly exiting his office and hurrying towards the command center. The command center was just downstairs. Zhou Jinghua rushed down the stairs, bursting through the door of the base command center. The room was brightly lit, yet the atmosphere was so tense it felt as if it could be cut with a knife. All eyes were fixed on a massive electronic screen at the center, which displayed real-time surveillance footage of the harbor. With just a glance, Zhou Jinghua's pupils dilated. On the screen, a sleek, sci-fi-like behemoth quietly floated on the surface, dwarfed by the surrounding patrol boats and the 818 Coast Guard vessel, which appeared as mere toys in comparison. The situation was graver than anticipated. An unidentified warship had stealthily infiltrated the base harbor. Wait a moment. The aide had just reported that this ship emerged from beneath the water. Zhou Jinghua's sharp gaze fell upon a major officer in the hall. Lieutenant Hu. How did this unidentified warship appear? Lieutenant Hu saluted before responding. Commander, it surfaced from beneath the water. Without waiting for the captain to inquire, Vice Officer Hu continued. Captain, a glance at the footage will elucidate everything. With that, he gestured to a technician, who promptly retrieved the recordings from the dock surveillance cameras. Soon, a segment of video began to play on the large screen. Zhou Jinghua fixed his gaze upon the display, his eyes unwavering. As the footage commenced, the sea surface at the port appeared tranquil and undisturbed. Suddenly, a section of the water began to churn violently, forming a colossal whirlpool. In the next moment, an astonishingly large black silhouette, defying the laws of physics, eerily emerged from beneath the water's surface, as though a ghost had materialized. A torrent of seawater cascaded from its expansive deck, and ultimately, the entire vessel, having stirred up monstrous waves, settled steadily upon the ocean's surface. Zhou Jinghua inhaled sharply. The imagery on the screen transcended his comprehension. Chapter 3 on the mysterious warship. Not a soul in sight. What has transpired? At that moment, the command center's door swung open once more, as a dozen military officers from the base rushed in with hurried steps. However, when their gazes fell upon the large screen, all words caught in their throats. The thunderous roar of the propellers grew louder as AZ-9 helicopter, resembling a falcon in the night, swiftly approached above the colossal vessel. The helicopter emitted a brilliant searchlight that swept across the deck of the giant ship. Simultaneously, the high-definition real-time footage relayed by the helicopter was displayed on the central screen of the command center. Everyone held their breath. Under the intense illumination, the ship's deck was laid bare. The deck was flat and immaculate, with various weapon systems and equipment arranged in meticulous order, yet there was no sign of crew activity. Eerily silent, like a steel tomb. Could it be that there is no one aboard the warship? A thought flickered in a commander's mind, sending a chill creeping up his spine, an involuntary shiver coursing through him. It was too strange, too illogical. Just then, the beam of the searchlight swept past the towering mast behind the bridge, revealing a vibrant splash of red that caught everyone's attention. It was a 5-starred red flag fluttering in the wind. Following that, as the searchlight moved towards the bow of the ship, the side of the vessel clearly displayed the white hull number 101. The helicopter circled the massive warship, transmitting images from various angles back to the command center. This was neither an American warship nor aligned with Russian design aesthetics. A technical officer, the first to break the silence, wore a puzzled expression. From the vessel's exterior lines and weapons configuration, it bore no resemblance to any known foreign warship design philosophy. Could it be a new model secretly developed by us? A top-secret project? Another officer speculated. No, Zhou Zhenghua replied, swiftly dismissing that possibility. His rank afforded him a clear understanding of the domestic naval developments. Currently, the Navy's most advanced Type 052 destroyer was still under construction in the dock, with a full load displacement of just over 6,000 tons, which was already considered the pinnacle of domestic warship design. Yet, the mysterious giant ship in the port was astonishingly large, with an estimated length exceeding 180 meters and a visible tonnage of at least 10,000 tons. No such vessel existed in the military's roster. If it is neither ours nor American or Russian, what then is its origin? All the commanders exchanged bewildered glances. After contemplating for a moment, Zhou Zhenghua ordered the communications officer attempt to contact 101. Yes, the communications officer immediately donned his headset, adjusted the frequency, and spoke into the microphone with urgency. Hull number 101, this is the Longhua Coast Guard Sanya base. Please immediately disclose your origins and intentions. I repeat, please immediately disclose your origins. On the channel, only the static of electric noise responded. The communications officer, undeterred, called out several more times in succession. Yet, there was still no response. The colossal vessel loomed like a lifeless steel sculpture, utterly unresponsive to the calls from the outside world. At that moment, the voice of the helicopter pilot echoed from the large screen. Command Center, the Dragon Strike team has reached the target area, requesting to board. Requesting to board. Zhou Zhenghua revealed a look of hesitation. The manner in which this warship had appeared was exceedingly peculiar, and the absence of crew members on board added an air of abnormality. It resembled a beast lurking in the harbor, concealing unknown dangers within its depths. To allow the strike team to board recklessly posed an immense risk. Yet, failing to board was equally untenable. Allowing such an enigmatic behemoth to remain in their harbor was akin to harboring a ticking time bomb. After a few seconds of deliberation, Zhou Zhenghua issued the order. Authorize boarding, exercise utmost caution, ensure personnel safety. In the event of any anomalies, withdraw immediately and refrain from firing unless absolutely necessary. Received. The helicopter hovered above the massive ship, and a rope was subsequently cast down, cascading onto the deck. Action. At the command, the members of the Dragon Strike team, clad in black combat attire and armed to the teeth, began their descent down the rope, one after another. Upon landing, they crouched low and swiftly took up defensive positions. Once all 6 team members had descended, team leader Zhao Hailong signaled with a wave of his hand, leading them into a tactical formation as they cautiously approached the hatch. Halt! Just a few meters from the hatch, Zhao Hailong raised his hand, fingers splayed. In an instant, everyone crouched down, their weapons trained on the hatch, fingers poised on the triggers, ready to confront any threat that might burst forth from within. One team member received the signal, crouched low, and dashed to the side of the hatch, pressing against the cold hull. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the hatch and slipped inside. At that moment, whether on the deck or in the command center, all eyes fixed on the screen, everyone's hearts raced in their throats. The seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity. Soon, the radio crackled to life. Captain, it's safe inside. There is no one. Proceed. Zhao Hailong waved his hand, leading his team in a steady stream into the interior. The cabin was equally deserted, with various instruments and equipment neatly arranged, yet devoid of any signs of activity. They continued deeper, descending into the lower levels of the ship. The outcome remained unchanged, emptiness. Subsequently, they meticulously searched the primary compartments of the entire warship, from the command bridge at the topmost level to the soldiers' quarters at the bottom, then to the spacious dining hall and the intricately structured engine room. The conclusion they reached sent chills down their spines. This seemingly materialized 10,000-ton vessel was devoid of even a single ghostly shadow. It was a phantom ship. Such strangeness stirred unease even among this well-trained, seasoned group of special forces. Within the cabin, the air seemed thick with an invisible chill, sending shivers down their spines. Meanwhile, at the base command center, on the colossal electronic screen, real-time footage streamed from the helmet cameras of the boarding team. The image swayed with the soldiers' movements, revealing vast, desolate compartments, each one eerily vacant. In the spacious command hall, Zhou Zhenghua and a dozen base commanders fixated intently on the screen, not daring to exhale. The atmosphere was oppressively quiet, allowing the sound of their collective breaths to echo clearly. Report. All compartments have been searched, and no personnel have been found. Captain Zhao Hailong's voice broke the suffocating silence through the loudspeaker. Not a soul was aboard. A super battleship of 10,000 tons had materialized out of thin air, and it was completely unmanned. One commander, struggling to swallow, voiced a dry question. Are we encountering a paranormal event? Zhou Jinghua instinctively wanted to retort, to chastise him for his absurdity. Yet, as the words lingered on the tip of his tongue, he found himself rendered speechless. How could one articulate the inexplicable scene before them? Was it possible that an utterly preposterous thought had surfaced in Zhou Jinghua's mind? Extraterrestrial civilization? Chapter 4. The Coast Guard Base. Chaos Unleashed. The notion seemed laughable, yet the question remained. How does one explain the emergence of this super battleship? Rising from the depths of the sea? Thump, thump. In that moment, Zhou Jinghua could distinctly hear the rhythm of his own heartbeat. A powerful premonition surged within him. The arrival of this enigmatic warship might herald monumental changes for the entire naval force of Longhua, perhaps even the global order. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Jinghua quelled the tempest within, restoring the composure befitting a base commander. I command that the base immediately elevate to a Level 1 combat readiness status. Seal off the port and all surrounding areas, and restrict all information, including the disseminated through online media. Everything that transpires tonight shall be classified as top secret, and no one is permitted to divulge a single word. Understood. Vice officer who responded loudly, promptly turning to depart. Simultaneously, Zhou Jinghua hastened to the side of the command platform, seizing a red secure phone to dial a number. On the other end was a high-ranking admiral from the naval headquarters. Beep beep. The call connected. Sir, this is Zhou Jinghua from the Sanya base. After gathering his thoughts, Zhou Jinghua succinctly reported the recent events. Zhou Jinghua, are you aware of what you are saying? Sir, I am acutely aware. Zhou Jinghua replied earnestly. I assure you, with my 20 years of military service and honor, that every word I speak is true. A moment of silence ensued on the line before a response came. I understand. I will be there immediately. Ensure confidentiality is maintained. Affirmative. The call concluded. Zhou Jinghua placed the microphone down, his gaze once again fixed upon the large screen. A glint of brilliance flashing in his eyes. He turned to the commanders behind him, who were still in a state of shock, and stated, Let us proceed to the dock. In a short while, they arrived at the dock. The night breeze carried the briny scent of the sea. As a group of commanders stood upon the dock, gazing up at the iron behemoth moored upon the water's surface, they truly grasped the essence of awe. On the screen within the command hall, it had merely been a colossal image. In this moment, it manifested as a tangible entity, exuding a silent yet oppressive presence. Every individual felt a sudden constriction in their breath. Observe closely the expression in Zhou Jinghua's eyes. There was astonishment, confusion, and gradually, a growing vigilance that transformed into fervor. Although the origins of this warship remained unclear, one thing Zhou Jinghua was certain of, since it had appeared at the Sanya base, it would not escape. It belonged to the base. After lingering on the cold hull of the colossal vessel for an extended moment, he turned and addressed the officers behind him. I must ascend to investigate. No sooner had he spoken than one of the commanders beside him cautioned, Captain, it is far too perilous. The origins of this ship are unknown, and the situation aboard is completely uncertain. You cannot take such a personal risk. Captain, allow me to go instead, another commander interjected. Zhou Jinghua raised his hand, silencing their protests. The Dragon Assault team was still aboard. At least for the time being, they remained safe. I can go alone. You all return to the command center. With that, Zhou Jinghua strode confidently down the dock and boarded a patrol boat. The engine of the patrol boat emitted a low growl as it slowly departed from the dock, approaching the steel Leviathan on the sea. My beloved little scooter. It will never be caught in traffic. Chun Bei hummed an off-key tune as he rode a somewhat worn electric bike, turning into a bustling street filled with the aromas of late-night snacks. Xiao Bei, over here. By the barbecue stall, a rotund friend waved energetically at him. At the table sat 3 individuals, 2 men and 2 women, all former high school classmates. Here they come. Chun Bei parked his bike and plopped down onto a chair. I heard you've been quite the hotshot lately. Fire the boss? One classmate inquired, passing him a bottle of beer with a grin. Ah, don't even mention it. I just resigned and plan to take a break for a while. Chun Bei accepted the beer, expertly using his teeth to pop off the cap, clinking it against those of his companions. As the icy beer flowed down their throats, the group engaged in light-hearted banter, discussing everything from work-related woes to amusing anecdotes from their school days, creating a relaxed atmosphere. Time slipped away unnoticed. As the clock approached 1 in the morning, the barbecue stall neared its conclusion. I can't do this anymore. I have to get up early for work tomorrow. I'm heading out. One old classmate yawned and stood to bid farewell. All right then, let us all call it a night, the others agreed, dispersing. Chun Bei mounted his little scooter and wobbled his way back to his rented room. Upon returning home, he noticed the wall clock's hour hand pointed to 2 o'clock. The computer screen still glowed. The game naval power was still running. Chun Bei stretched lazily and plopped down in front of the computer. On the game screen, numerous soldiers appeared on the deck of the 055 destroyer. Besides the soldiers, many technicians were present, wielding various instruments to conduct measurements aboard the vessel. It was likely a scenario depicting the Coast Guard receiving a new warship and familiarizing themselves with its equipment, Chun Bei surmised. He clicked on the warship with the mouse. An aside data window reappeared. Length, 180 meters. Width, 23 meters. Full displacement, 13,000 tons. Maximum speed, 32 knots. What astonishing data, Chen Bei exclaimed, his mouth making a clicking sound. If the Navy truly possessed such a large destroyer, it would be remarkable. At that moment, Chen Bei noticed an inconspicuous icon at the bottom of the data window, depicting a paintbrush labeled coating. Indeed, the warship had been transferred to the Coast Guard, and it was necessary to change its livery. He clicked on the icon, transforming it into a small brush shape, accompanied by a color palette. Chen Bei selected the color white, representative of the Coast Guard. Subsequently, he moved the brush across the game's gray hull, gently applying strokes. The areas brushed turned white. Brush, brush, brush. In just a few strokes, the entire gray exterior of the massive warship transformed into a striking coat of white. At his feet, Chen Bei nodded, feeling it still lacked something. He painted the hull number 101 and changed it to Coast Guard 001. Additionally, he selected the font tool and meticulously inscribed 4 bold characters. Dragon Country Coast Guard, in a prominent position on the hull. Completion. Chen Bei admired his masterpiece, completely unaware that his casual actions had incited chaos 100 kilometers away at the base. At the Sanya base, on the deck of the 055 destroyer, a young soldier responsible for perimeter vigilance leaned against the railing, intensely focused on observing the surface of the sea. Suddenly, he sensed something amiss. Instinctively, he lowered his gaze to the metallic railing before him, and his entire being froze. The originally dark gray railing had inexplicably transformed into pure white. Am I seeing things? The soldier rubbed his eyes vigorously. White, it had truly turned white. Not just the railing. The entire hull had adopted a white coating. Furthermore, in the middle of the hull, 4 enormous and striking black Chinese characters materialized, Dragon Country Coast Guard. Simultaneously, aboard a patrol boat surrounding the giant vessel, a patrolman holding binoculars gaped wider and wider. The ship, it changed color. Onshore, a soldier responsible for blocking the dock nearly dropped his jaw in astonishment. Before his very eyes, the colossal gray beast, reminiscent of a mountain of steel, had transformed into a white giant within the span of mere seconds, accompanied by a strange play of light and shadow. This is the command center. Captain, the target's livery has changed. Repeat, the target's livery is changing to white. Within the confines of the cabin, the intercom crackled to life with the astonished voice of the aide. What has changed? Zhou Xinghua inquired loudly. Commander, the unidentified warship. Its paint scheme has turned white, and it now bears the words Dragon Nation, Coast Guard. The aide stuttered. Without hesitation, Zhou Xinghua strode outside. As he swiftly exited the cabin and stood upon the deck, even this seasoned soldier, who had dedicated 20 years to military service, was utterly taken aback. The warship's paint had indeed transformed. This phenomenon surpassed the boundaries of his understanding. At that moment, an unexpected occurrence transpired. A low, resonant hum emanated from the deck beneath his feet, causing the entire vessel to tremble slightly. Almost immediately, the lights illuminating the deck, the bridge, and various parts of the hull flickered to life with a resounding click. Inside the cabin, the previously pitch-black instrument panels, display screens, and computer monitors illuminated one by one. Zhou Xinghua dashed back to the command center, demanding who activated the equipment. The technicians and special forces members in the command center wore expressions of bewilderment. One technician reporting, "Commander, none of us have touched anything. The warship activated itself." Activated itself? Zhou Xinghua furrowed his brow and hastened to the main control panel. This warship was shrouded in too many mysteries, presenting phenomena that defied comprehension. Indeed, at that moment, Zhou Xinghua and all the senior officials at the base had come to regard this vessel as a creation of extraterrestrial civilization. As for how the warship had activated, it was naturally due to Chen Bei's command. Subsequently, Chen Bei sought to maneuver the warship around the harbor, yearning to experience the sensation of piloting a 10,000-ton destroyer. The game interface shifted to the interior of the warship's cockpit, where a plethora of intricate instruments dazzled the eyes. However, a dilemma arose. Chen Bei could not decipher its operation. How does one control this contraption? He attempted to click on the rudder, throttle lever, and various buttons with the mouse, but to no avail. The perspective shifted to the exterior of the warship as Chen Bei tried to click on the surface of the water in front of the bow, aiming to issue a movement command akin to that in real-time strategy games. Yet, the colossal vessel remained steadfastly anchored in place. At that moment, by mere chance, Chen Bei shifted the mouse and opened the flashing taskbar in the upper right corner of the screen. A new mission appeared. Escort mission, in the vicinity of Renai Reef. Foreign fishing vessels have illegally entered our territorial waters to conduct fishing operations. Please proceed immediately to the target area and execute expulsion and escort duties. A mission has arrived. Chunbei clicked to accept the task. Coast Guard Ship 001 has accepted the mission. Do you wish to set sail to the Rinai Reef area to execute the escort mission? Yes, no. Yes, Chunbei clicked the mouse. In the next instant, the warship began to move. First, the bow adjusted its heading. Then it commenced its journey, heading towards the open sea. After a few minutes of navigation, the vessel's speed surged to 32 knots. After a brief interval of over 10 minutes, Chunbei sensed something amiss. He opened the game's integrated electronic map to discover that the icon representing his vessel was still a staggering distance of 100,000 miles away from the mission's target point. Hovering the mouse over the taskbar revealed a detailed mission prompt. Estimated sailing time, 9 hours. Expected arrival at the target sea area at 11 a.m. the next day. Could it be a 9-hour voyage? Chunbei scoffed. Would he really have to wait until noon tomorrow? Was this not absurd? He patiently waited another 10 minutes, only to find the warship on the map progressing at a snail's pace, with scarcely any change in distance to the target point. Damn it! Chunbei couldn't help but curse. Was he truly expected to wait 9 hours? What kind of nonsensical design was this for a game? Who on earth thought it wise to calculate mission time based on real life? He felt an overwhelming urge to express his disdain. At that moment, a wave of drowsiness washed over him, and Chunbei yawned widely. He felt a bit tired. Moving his mouse, he clicked to exit the game. A prompt appeared. After exiting the game, will you allow the AI to take over the warship and execute the current mission? Yes. Chunbei confirmed and exited the game, heading off for a shower. On the 055 destroyer, in the command cabin, Zhou Jinghua and a group of technicians stood anxiously before the control panel. The deck beneath them vibrated as the colossal vessel sliced through the waves at high speed, venturing into uncharted waters. Where was it headed? What was its purpose? What were the intentions of the extraterrestrial civilization? Captain. Just then, a technician, fixated on the screen, suddenly exclaimed, "Look!" Zhou Jinghua hurried over. Before the technician, a computer screen displayed a line of Chinese characters. Dragon Nation Coast Guard Ship number 001 is executing a convoy mission. Current speed 32 knots. Distance to Rin AI Reef area 860 nautical miles. Zhou Jinghua's pupils constricted as he carefully read the text. Captain, look here, the technician pointed to another computer screen, which displayed the real-time navigation map of the warship. A bright blue line extended from the Sanya base, heading straight towards a coordinate deep in the South China Sea. Annotated with the words, Run AI Reef. The Run AI Reef area? Zhou Jinghua furrowed his brow. The name instantly triggered his sensitive nerves. He picked up a communicator. Command Center, this is Zhou Jinghua. Immediately investigate whether the South China Fleet has issued a convoy mission regarding the Rin AI Reef area. Understood. Captain, came the response from the other end of the communicator. Minutes later, a crackling sound echoed, followed by the voice from the command center. Report, Captain. We have just verified that the South China Fleet Command did indeed issue a convoy mission for the Rin AI Reef area 20 minutes ago. The initial mission was assigned to the South China Sea Fleet's vessels 168 and 142. However, for reasons unknown, the Coast Guard Vessel 001 also received the mission order and confirmed its acceptance. Chapter 5. Does the game influence reality? Indeed, this task exists. At this revelation, everyone in the command cabin found themselves momentarily bewildered. The news was so shocking that their thoughts momentarily stagnated. This enigmatic super battleship had audaciously accepted a naval mission under the name of Coast Guard 001. This implies that an extraterrestrial civilization had taken on the task. The question arises, what could this alien civilization possibly intend? Are they merely idly assisting the Dragon Kingdom's navy with escort duties? Such logic is utterly nonsensical. The entire situation exudes an indescribable sense of absurdity. It is a tale that no one would ever believe. Yet, the reality unfolded vividly before their eyes. Coast Guard 001. Do you respond? Su Tsing inquired in a graviton. There was no response. The technician responsible for communications shook his head, his expression one of resignation. We have been attempting to communicate through all public and military channels, but there has been no reply. Zhou Jinghua's gaze shifted to the other technicians, who had been trying to decipher and take control of the vessel's operating system since boarding. Have you made any progress? The technicians exchanged glances, and one of them, with a wry smile, shook his head. No, Captain. We cannot perform any operations. Any attempt to intervene with the core commands prompts the computer screen to display a message. Unauthorized. Authorization required for operation. It is evident that the required authorization must come from the extraterrestrial civilization. The problem lies in our inability to establish contact. Zhou Jinghua fell silent. his eyes drifting through the command cabin's viewport to the boundless sea shrouded in night. A premonition stirred within him. The appearance of this alien warship was no mere coincidence. Its proactive acceptance of the mission might signify a test, a beginning of communication. It harbored its own objectives, and when there are objectives, contact will inevitably be forged. For now, the only course of action was to wait. The calendar turned a page. When Chunbei opened his eyes once more, the sunlight streaming through the window was somewhat blinding. It was already the following morning. He had enjoyed an exceptionally restful slumber, with no work obligations. The feeling of waking naturally, unburdened by tasks, was the ultimate dream of any weary soul. Stretching luxuriously in bed, Chunbei nestled his head back into the pillow, indulging in a few more minutes of relaxation. Eventually, he arose, performing a brief morning routine. Glancing at his phone, he noted it was precisely 10 o'clock. He ordered a takeout of pig's trotter rice and then plopped down at his computer. The screen flickered to life, revealing the icon of the Coast Guard simulation game still present on the desktop. A double click launched the game. Welcome, Commander. The intelligence system is at your service, ready to heed your commands. Accompanied by synthetic electronic sound, the game interface loaded to completion. Astonishing. Chunbei's Mut involuntarily parted in Auge. The screen displayed an expanse of deep blue ocean, where the sky and sea melded seamlessly, sunlight dancing upon the water's surface, casting shimmering golden reflections. A gentle breeze caressed the sea, creating ripples that spread outward, while sunlight filtered through the clouds, casting dappled shadows upon the waves. The visual quality was astonishingly high definition. Even a Hollywood blockbuster, with a budget in the hundreds of millions, could scarcely achieve such an effect. Last night, the dim lighting rendered the game interface rather lackluster, lacking a compelling impact. However, upon this clearer view, the graphics utterly eclipsed all other games on the market. None could compete. Titles like Call of Duty and Battlefield seemed trivial in comparison to this masterpiece. As the scene transitioned, the camera shifted from the vast ocean to the interior of a warship. Wow! Chunbei gasped once more. What new marvel awaited him? He beheld a command center filled with several officers clad in crisp, white naval uniforms. What captivated Chunbei's attention were the lifelike character models of these officers. They were so vividly rendered that they appeared almost indistinguishable from real human beings. In disbelief, Chunbei maneuvered his mouse to zoom in on one officer's features. Every wrinkle, each strand of hair, and even the perplexity evident in their eyes were rendered with astonishing clarity. If one were to claim they were real, Chunbei would readily believe it. When did domestic gaming technology become so impressive? This level of modeling and rendering completely upended Chunbei's perceptions of the gaming industry. It was simply unfathomable. As he marveled, a profound sense of curiosity took root. Indeed, curiosity. This caliber of modeling was unparalleled. Not even the latest top-tier foreign titles, pushing graphics cards to their limits and maximizing resolution, could achieve such fidelity. Every detail was rendered with a breathtaking precision. Even the blood vessels in the character's eyes were distinctly visible, as if he were peering through a transparent glass into the real world. What company could possibly be responsible for such brilliance? Chunbei's curiosity was piqued to its utmost. He opened a web browser and typed Coast Guard simulation game into the search bar. The results yielded a plethora of similarly named browser games and unrelated links. There were various knockoff naval battle games, recommendations for naval-themed novels, and discussions on military forums, yet no information regarding the game he sought. How could this be? This was impossible. Furrowing his brow, Chunbei pondered the situation. With such cutting-edge technology, the developing company must be a major player in the industry, and such visual excellence would undoubtedly create a sensation, prompting major gaming media outlets to report on it. Logically, related information should have been easily accessible. What was going on? Chunbei sensed that something was amiss. He altered his search terms, entering phrases such as ultra-high-definition naval combat game, next-generation naval simulator, and the latest naval warfare game. Yet he continued to find nothing. Navigating to the game interface, he moved his mouse around the corners and menus, endeavoring to uncover copyright information, the developer's insignia, or any trace that could confirm the origin of this game. Strangely, the interface was remarkably pristine. Apart from functional buttons, even the most basic version number was absent. Suddenly, Chunbei's gaze inadvertently fell upon the commander at the helm of the command cabin, a figure adorned with the rank of Rear Admiral. He seemed somewhat familiar. Hovering the mouse over the officer's head, the character information materialized. Name, Zhou Jinghua. Rank, Rear Admiral. Position, Squadron Leader of the South China Sea Maritime Police Base in Sanya. Age, 49. Years of service, 28. So, he was the squadron leader of the Sanya Maritime Police Base. Chunbei recognized him. Haikou is quite close to Sanya, and as a half-hearted military enthusiast, he often visited the Sanya port to observe warships. Just last week, he had attended the 30th anniversary celebration of the Sanya Maritime Police Base, where he had personally witnessed Commander Zhou Jinghua, dressed in a crisp, white military uniform, ascend the podium to deliver a speech. At that moment, Chun Bei had even taken a few photographs to flaunt on social media. No wonder he looked so familiar. But then, Chun Bei's expression shifted. Something was decidedly off, very off. How could a game feature a character based on a real, active-duty officer? Chapter 6. Our Navy, no, the Maritime Police, is taking flight with this thought in mind. Chun Bei opened a web browser and searched for Zhou Jinghua, squadron leader of Sanya Maritime Police. Soon, relevant news articles and official photographs appeared. Chun Bei meticulously compared the news images with the character in the game. The facial features, demeanor, and even a single strand of white hair at his temples were identical. How could this be? Any reputable gaming company would never use the likeness of a real person without their consent, not even that of an ordinary citizen. Such an act would clearly infringe on rights of publicity. Moreover, to use the likeness of an active senior officer was tantamount to courting disaster. Suppressing his rising confusion, Chun Bei continued to click through the other officers within the command cabin. The information revealed that the characters within the game were, without exception, all commanders from the Sanya Maritime Police Base. Even Chun Bei, who typically had a thick skin, began to sense the peculiarity of the situation. Suddenly, a phrase from the game's startup the previous night flashed through his mind. This game is fully synchronized with the real world. Any actions taken by players within the game will have corresponding effects in reality. Please proceed with caution. At that moment, he initially thought it was merely a publicity stunt. Now, however, it seemed improbable, didn't it? With this thought, Chun Bei felt a shiver run down his spine. Commander, we are 76 nautical miles from the target location. The Ijiao Sea, and are expected to arrive in approximately 54 minutes, the electronic voice from the game announced. The sudden sound startled Chun Bei, causing him to jump. The game's artificial intelligence. Regaining his composure, he tentatively spoke into the computer's microphone. Are you an artificial intelligence? Yes, Commander, I am the onboard artificial intelligence system. Ready to assist you at any time. Is there anything you would like me to clarify? Came the electronic response. Chun Bei felt as if he had been jolted by electricity, abruptly standing up from his chair. To his astonishment, conversation was indeed possible. Stay calm. Stay calm. Do not panic. He forced himself to sit back down. You are the intelligence of the game? Yes, Commander. I ask you, does this game truly affect reality? As he posed this question, Chun Bei felt his heart racing in his throat. Yes, Commander, replied. Any action you take in the game will have corresponding effects on the real world. Please proceed with caution. Goodness. In that instant, Chun Bei's heart raced, and his blood felt as if it were boiling. How can you prove that actions in the game influence reality? He pressed, suddenly struck by an idea. In the name of Coast Guard 001, sent out a Weibo post that simply states, Hello, Commander. Understood, Commander. The Weibo post has been published, the AI responded. Chun Bei immediately grabbed his phone and opened Weibo, searching for Coast Guard 001. The account indeed existed. Upon entering, he noticed it had 0 followers. The next moment, the page refreshed, revealing a new post. Hello, Commander. My goodness. It was real. The game was indeed completely synchronized with the real world. After a brief moment of shock, Excitement Zurgit Vitin Chen Bai. His heart raced rapidly. Stay calm. How could he possibly remain calm? He exclaimed, overwhelmed with enthusiasm, even standing up and rushing to the balcony to shout loudly. Meanwhile, Mrs. Wang from the neighboring balcony, who was hanging up laundry, poked her head out, regarding Chun Bei with a look akin to that of someone observing a lunatic. Embarrassed, Chun Bei sheepishly retreated into his room. After taking several deep breaths to force himself to regain composure, he sat back at the computer. Intelligence. Are you an extraterrestrial civilization? He cautiously inquired. Insufficient data? Unable to answer. Unable to answer? Chun Bei was taken aback. Which company developed this game? Insufficient data, unable to answer. Still no answers forthcoming. However, Chun Bei's attention shifted back to the command cabin of the warship, inquiring, are the individuals in the command cabin real people, the commanders of the Sanya Coast Guard? Indeed, came the reply, followed by introductions. Zhou Jinghua, the base captain, and Hu Haifeng, the deputy captain. Did this warship truly appear at the Sanya Coast Guard base last night? Yes, Commander. Chun Bei's mind flashed back to the previous night's events. A warship seemingly emerged from the depths like a specter, startling the entire Coast Guard base into chaos. This was no small matter. Who could have anticipated that a game could manifest such reality? His gaze returned to the imposing hull of the Type 055 destroyer, his eyes igniting with fervor. The synchronization of game and reality implied that this warship was indeed real. Unable to contain his excitement, he asked, is the Coast Guard 001 truly from the year 2042? Affirmative, Commander, the AI responded. The Type 055 missile destroyer was officially commissioned in 2020, served for 22 years, and was honorably decommissioned in 2042. According to the latest directives, the vessel is now transferred to the Sanya base of the South China Sea Coast Guard under your full command. Chen Bei felt every cell in his body tremble with exhilaration. What had he said just last night? If the Navy had such a 10,000-ton destroyer, it would surely soar overnight. Now, it appeared that this was indeed about to happen. Are there even more advanced and powerful warships available in the game? For instance, aircraft carriers or nuclear submarines? Chen Bei eagerly continued to inquire. Yes, Commander, the AI's response filled him with delight, prompting him to ask, how can I obtain them? There are two methods of acquisition. First, receiving decommissioned vessels from the future. The system will periodically issue transfer missions. Second, consuming technology points to upgrade the tech tree and construct vessels independently. Can new warships be received now? Chen Bei asked impatiently. Report, Commander. There are currently no vessels available for transfer. None? Correct, Commander. When will they be available for transfer? Chen Bei pressed on undetailed. The next transfer mission will be issued in 7 days. A week. Not a long wait, just a few days. Endurable indeed. Compared to the real-world construction period of several years for a warship, this speed was nothing short of miraculous. Chapter 7. Unlocking Future Technology. Please elaborate on the consumption of technology points and the upgrade of technology, Chen Bei inquired. Certainly, Commander. The AI provided a thorough explanation. Current technology is at level 1, allowing for the construction of weaponry and equipment commensurate with the current technological standards of Long Country. Unlocking level 2 technology will grant access to cutting-edge advancements for the next decade. Unlocking level 3 technology will unveil innovations for the next 20 years. Following this logic, each advancement unlocks a decade's worth of technological innovations. Subsequently, the artificial intelligence elaborates on the pivotal resources required for these upgrades. Enhancing technology demands the expenditure of tech points, which can be obtained through the completion of tasks and daily check-ins. Commander, you have yet to check in today, the AI timely reminds. Check-in, Chen Bei response. Check-in successful. Congratulations, you have received. Tech points 1. Congratulations, you have received. Game coins 1,000, accompanied by a melodious notification. A data panel materializes on the screen. Current tech points. 11,100 current coins. 11,000 note. Unlocking level 2 technology requires 100 tech points. Chen Bei scrutinizes the panel. He currently possesses 11 tech points, leaving him 89 points short of unlocking level 2 technology. If relying solely on daily check-ins, he would require 89 days to accumulate the necessary points. 3 months. Merely 3 months would suffice to unlock the cutting-edge technology of the next decade. Chen Bei's eyes instantly gleam with excitement. Furthermore, completing tasks also yields tech points, which could significantly shorten this time frame. He recalls that he is currently engaged in a task. Reviewing the current mission, he notes, Task: Escort Patrol at Renai Reef Task Stage. Phase 1. Reach Target Maritime Area, Progress 910. Distance to Target Maritime Area, 60 nautical miles. Estimated arrival in 50 minutes. Chen Bei dismisses the task page, redirecting his focus to the 055 destroyer. AI, please provide a detailed introduction of this 055 destroyer. Certainly, Commander. As the AI elaborates, Chen Bei's enthusiasm intensifies. The design philosophy, power system, radar, and avionics of this vessel are all unparalleled in this era. Not to mention the naval forces of the Dragon Kingdom. Even if one were to summon the currently formidable American fleet, they would find no warship of comparable tonnage and technological prowess. This vessel is equipped with a YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missile, employing full hypersonic penetration, which existing missile defense systems worldwide cannot effectively counter. Wait, Chen Bei interjects during the explanation. Are you saying that this missile cannot be intercepted by any existing defense systems? Indeed, Commander. Are you certain? Not even the U.S. or Russia can intercept it. Chen Bei emphasizes the American aircraft carrier fleets, their Aegis systems, and Standard 3 interceptors. None of these can stop it? Correct, Commander, the AI responds. The terminal maneuvering speed of the YJ-21 missile can reach 10 Mach, utilizing trajectory alteration technology, rendering it virtually impossible to intercept with current capabilities. Theoretically, a single YJ-21 missile is sufficient to incapacitate or destroy a U.S. Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. One missile can take down an aircraft carrier. Incredible. Chen Bei felt a surge of fervor rush to his head, his blood beginning to boil with excitement. May I proceed with the test launch of a missile? He inquired. Please issue the command, Commander. Indeed, it was permissible. Chen Bei rubbed his hands together, suppressing his inner exhilaration, and first opted to test the main cannon of the warship. Testing the warship's main cannon, Chen Bei announced. No sooner had the words escaped his lips than the game interface displayed the controls for the ship's artillery, with a crosshair prominently situated at its center. As Chun-Bei pressed the mouse and moved it, the 130mm single-barrel cannon of the 055 destroyer rotated in accordance with his movements. Report. A communication officer's exclamation shattered the silence within the command chamber, having observed the cannon in motion. What? Zhou Jinghua and a dozen commanders turned in unison to gaze out the window, and indeed, the main cannon of the warship was turning, as if guided by an invisible hand. What is happening? Why is the cannon moving on its own? A commotion ensued in the cabin. As Chun-Bei maneuvered the cannon, he peered through the sight and discerned two vessels flanking the 055 destroyer, one with the hull number 168 and the other 142. They belonged to the naval escort fleet. Chun-Bei recognized the hull numbers and, mindful of his intent to test the cannon, realized he must avoid targeting his own allies. It was imperative to issue a warning to prevent misunderstandings. Contemplating this, he instructed the AI, notify the commanders in the control room that we are conducting a weapons test. Attention, the ship's broadcast system announced, the artificial intelligence's voice resonating throughout the vessel. Sea Police 001 is about to conduct a weapons system test. Zhou Jinghua was initially taken aback, soon revealing a look of astonishment. From last night until now, this marked the first response from the mysterious extraterrestrial civilization, providing a clear signal. Testing what? A commander instinctively asked. Testing weapons? Another officer inquired, his tone laced with uncertainty. The officers exchanged glances, fully aware of what a weapons test entailed. The concern lay in deciphering the extraterrestrial civilization's intentions. What if this so-called weapons test meant firing upon their own escort fleet? The ramifications were dire. Yet, it was Zhou Jinghua who first regained his composure, striding to the communication station and proclaiming loudly, "I am Zhou Jinghua, the commander of the Sanya base of the Dragon Nation Sea Police. I request to communicate with your side." His voice, clear through the microphone, reached Chun-Bei's ears at the computer. Should he respond? This posed a dilemma for Chun-Bei. He was at a loss for words. Should he say, "Relax, my friend. I am merely playing a game"? The game was the greatest secret, one that could not be disclosed. Who could predict the consequences of revealing it? Unsure of how to reply, he opted for silence. Chun-Mu feigned ignorance, redirecting his gaze back to the naval artillery control platform. Intelligence system? How does one operate the artillery? Commander, you may issue verbal commands directly. Simply specify the target for bombardment. Understood. It shall be executed by the game. How user-friendly. Otherwise, Chun-Mu would have been at a loss regarding the operation. The management of a modern warship is exceedingly intricate. Without training, an ordinary individual could not possibly navigate it. Chapter 8. The emergence of an American reconnaissance aircraft target directly ahead of the warship, 1 kilometer off the coast, commanded Chun-Bei. The cannon adjusted slightly, swiftly locking onto the surface of the sea a kilometer away. The artillery is aimed. Please give the order, Commander. Fire. In that instant, a thunderous roar erupted. The colossal cannon belched flames, and a searing shell was ejected with a clang. Concurrently, a column of water surged skyward from the sea, soaring several dozen meters high. Wow, what an exhilarating experience. Chun-Bei, flushed with excitement, shouted, "Continue firing." Boom, boom, boom. 3 more shells whistled through the air, erupting into magnificent sprays on the distant surface of the ocean. What a thrill, an absolute thrill. Chun-Bei, a military enthusiast at heart, had long harbored dreams of serving his country. Regrettably, during his physical examination years ago, he fell short in physical fitness and was disqualified. Who would have thought that he could indulge in the experience of being a soldier, firing artillery from a warship within a game? Haha, this is fantastic. Keep firing. Boom! The cannon roared. While he reveled in the moment, within the command cabin, Zhou Jinghua and the other commanders exchanged bewildered glances. It truly is merely a weapons test, murmured his aide, who in a hushed tone, though uncertain as to why it was conducting the test. Nonetheless, this was the first instance it had proactively communicated information to them without displaying hostility. Zhou Jinghua nodded in acknowledgement. Indeed, this was the first report. In a certain light, it was a positive development. At least the extraterrestrial civilization had conveyed a degree of goodwill. Furthermore, from last night until now, 7 to 8 hours had elapsed, and the personnel aboard remained unharmed, suffering no injuries apart from their inability to operate the warship. Boom! Boom! The cannon fired several more rounds, ultimately ceasing after unleashing dozens of shells. Had he satisfied his cravings? Certainly not. Chun-Bei contemplated a practical question. Let us check how much ammunition the warship has left. As soon as the words left his lips, a detailed ammunition reserve page appeared. Type 45 130mm single-barrel naval gun, ammunition reserve, 99. 942 rounds. Type 1111 barrel 30mm close-in weapon system, Ammunition reserve. 2,000,000 rounds. NG-21 hypersonic anti-ship missile. Ammunition reserve. 80 units. Hongqi 9 long-range air defense missile. Ammunition reserve. 128 units. The stock of naval gun shells was ample. Having fired several rounds, it was merely a drop in the bucket. However, the NG-21 hypersonic missiles, with only 80 units, seemed somewhat insufficient. Yet, upon reflection, these formidable national treasures could single-handedly annihilate an aircraft carrier. Thus, a reserve of 80 was indeed formidable. What if the missiles run out? Chen Bei posed a critical question. Report to the commander. You may purchase ammunition using game currency in the military armory. Upon unlocking the corresponding future technologies, you can also construct factories for mass production. The game responded. Understood. It requires real expenditure. Chen Bei glanced at his coin balance. 11,000. Soon, he discovered the price of the NG-21 in the game's armory. 500 coins per missile. This meant he could acquire only 22 units with his current balance. Coin supply seems a bit scant, Chen Bei muttered. He casually inquired how to earn more coins, receiving the expected response. Complete tasks and check in daily. Got it. Initially, Chen Bei was eager to launch a NG-21 to relish the exhilarating sensation of obliteration, but his enthusiasm swiftly waned. Forget it, 500 coins per missile is too extravagant. I can't bring myself to part with that. In contrast, the main gun shells were not only economical, but also boasted a reserve of nearly 100,000 rounds, practically free. Let's fire a few more rounds for fun. Boom, boom, boom. Another dozen shells were hurled toward the horizon, creating towering columns of water on the surface of the sea. That was satisfying. The test concluded. Chun Mu glanced at the mission bar. Less than 40 minutes remained until reaching the target maritime zone. At that moment, his phone vibrated on the table. Upon checking, it was a call from a delivery person. Hello, your delivery has arrived. Please come downstairs to collect it. All right, Chun Bei replied, rising to put on his slippers and heading downstairs. A short while later, he returned to his rental apartment with a serving of pig trotter rice. He casually placed the delivery bag on the table, sat down at his computer, and opened the meal. Report to the commander. Approximately 30 minutes remaining until arrival at the target maritime zone, the intelligent voice chimed inappropriately. Chen Bei ate while observing the game's visuals. Just as he had taken a few bites, an alarm blared from the game. Alert! Alert! In the eastern airspace of our fleet, a U.S. military reconnaissance aircraft was detected, positioned 260 kilometers away and rapidly approaching. An alert was issued. Goodness! A U.S. reconnaissance plane? Chen Bei instantly became alert, abandoning his meal. Report the model and detailed specifications of the aircraft. The game screen promptly shifted to the radar interface. On the radar, besides the 3 blue dots representing our vessels, a flickering red dot appeared in the eastern airspace, swiftly moving towards our position. Detailed information emerged beside the red dot. Model, Ares 3 electronic reconnaissance aircraft, altitude, 500 meters, estimated time to contact, 18 minutes. Chen Bei Spirits lifted. The Ares 3 reconnaissance aircraft, specifically designed by the U.S. for electronic surveillance, was equipped with an array of advanced electronic devices intended for gathering military intelligence from other nations. Meanwhile, at an altitude of 10,000 meters, the Ares 3 electronic reconnaissance aircraft thundered through the sky, its massive propeller emitting a deep rumble. Inside the cabin, a dozen U.S. electronic warfare experts were monitoring numerous displays, flickering with green and blue lights, as various data and waveform graphs scrolled across the screens. Report. Radar indicates 3 Dragon Country naval vessels in the vicinity, 242 kilometers away, a radar operator reported. Captain John Miller, a U.S. Army major, leaned closer to the radar screen. He was a quintessential American officer, with short golden hair, blue eyes, and a faint scar on his chin. Miller focused intently on the 3 green dots representing the ships. The radar operator pointed to one of the dots, a hint of confusion and excitement in his tone. Sir, this signal source is quite unusual. There are no matching records in the database. Based on the signal characteristics, it should be a large surface vessel. Yet we have never encountered this signal pattern. I believe we may have discovered a new model of Dragon Country-S warship. Chapter 9. Radar lock on U.S. aircraft. Unknown model, new warship. Major Miller's spirits surged, a glimmer of excitement flashing in his eyes. Successfully surveying the newly developed warship of the Dragon Country Navy and acquiring first-hand technical parameters and performance data would undoubtedly be a significant achievement, enough to secure him a promotion and a salary increase. All personnel attention, Miller commanded loudly. Accelerate towards the target area and prepare for close reconnaissance. Set all electronic equipment to maximum power. I want all data on this mysterious warship. In the rented room, A report came through. Commander, the target is accelerating towards us. Distance 250 kilometers. Distance 240 kilometers. Distance 235 kilometers. On the game radar interface, the red dot representing the U.S. aircraft was visibly closing in on our formation with alarming speed. Broadcast a warning to them, Chun Bei ordered. As soon as the words fell, a clear voice echoed through the game. American aircraft, you have entered our formation's air defense range. Please vacate immediately. I repeat, please vacate immediately. Simultaneously, within the cabin of the reconnaissance aircraft, an English warning blared over the public radio channel. Major Miller curled his lips into a cold smirk, dismissing the warning with indifference. He had long grown accustomed to such verbal admonitions. The reconnaissance aircraft showed no signs of slowing down or veering off course, continuing its direct approach towards the formation. As the two parties closed the distance to 200 kilometers, a sharp alarm blared within the cabin. Not good. Sir, we are locked by fire control radar. The radar operator shouted in panic. Major Miller jolted upright. In the next moment, the radio broadcast issued another warning. Warning. American aircraft, you have entered our weapons attack range, and our fire control radar has locked onto you. Leave immediately or face the consequences. This was a blatant threat. Major Miller's expression turned to one of anger. But had the formidable American military, the world's police, ever faced such an unabashed show of force in international waters? The co-pilot looked nervously at Miller. Ignore them. Miller gritted through clenched teeth. The Dragon people are merely trying to intimidate us. They would never dare to fire. He firmly believed this was nothing more than a display of bravado from the Dragon country, having discovered the new type of warship from the Dragon nation. This invaluable opportunity must not be squandered. Frustration bubbled within Chun Bei as well. If it were up to his usual temper, he would have launched a missile to send the Americans to meet their maker. Calm down. Chun Bei inhaled deeply, forcing himself to regain composure. This was no mere game. The consequences of firing could be catastrophic, potentially igniting an international conflict. The crux of the matter lay in their insufficient strength. If only he had an aircraft carrier fleet, he wouldn't have to waste time with a reconnaissance plane. He could simply chase it away. Intelligence system. Is there any alternative method to drive them off without resorting to fire? Chen Bai inquired. The intelligence system, well-versed in the advanced weaponry of the super battleship, might have a solution. Report to the commander. Based on the ship's electronic warfare capabilities, there are currently 2 effective disengagement strategies. The system responded promptly. The first is to employ a strong electromagnetic pulse to temporarily incapacitate the aircraft's communications and radar systems. The second is to activate the electronic warfare module to simulate missile launch signals through data links, delivering a high-intensity warning to the enemy aircraft. Proceed with the second strategy. Let's give them an electronic simulated launch. Chun Bei decisively chose the latter option. Yes, Commander. The electronic warfare module activated, and the missile launch signal simulation program commenced. Inside the cabin of the reconnaissance aircraft, the piercing sound of radar lock alarms continued to blare relentlessly. The radar operator fixated intently on the screen, beads of sweat trickling down his forehead. Suddenly, a blinding red light flickered into existence at the edge of the radar display, hurtling towards the green dot representing their own position at a bewildering speed. The operator's initial response was to question his own perception. In the next instant, as he discerned the missile's inexorable trajectory, he felt as though struck by lightning. His expression one of sheer horror as he bellowed in a strained voice. Major. Missile. The Dragon Country warship has launched a missile at us. Damn it. Major Miller was so startled that he half leapt from his chair, only to crash back down. His gaze transfixed on the radar screen. Disbelief etched across his face. Had they truly opened fire? Meanwhile, a piercing synthetic voice echoed within the cabin. Alarm. Alarm. Missile attack detected. Missile attack detected. Oh God. Chaos erupted in the cockpit, several crew members paling in fright, utterly panicked. Major Miller could scarcely ponder why the Dragon Country dared to fire. His instincts for survival overtook all rational thought as he hoarsely commanded, deploy chaff. Evasive maneuvers. Execute evasive maneuvers immediately. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A barrage of infrared and electromagnetic chaff flared from beneath the wings, exploding into brilliant clouds of light in the sky. Simultaneously, the pilot yanked the control stick. The cumbersome reconnaissance aircraft executed a sharp evasive maneuver, tossing the occupants about violently. Yet, all of this proved futile. For a slow reconnaissance plane locked onto by advanced fire control radar, any evasive action appeared utterly impotent. Missile at 100 kilometers, 80 kilometers, 60 kilometers. The radar operator's countdown sounded like a series of heavy blows, striking every heart in the cabin. On the screen, the red dot of impending doom surged inexorably closer. It's over. Major Miller's face drained of color. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm grew increasingly frantic, akin to the harbinger of death. A young officer even pulled a crucifix from his pocket, clutching it tightly in his hand, eyes shut in desperate prayer. In the next moment, under the terrified gaze of all, the red missile collided ominously with the dot representing the number 3 on the radar screen. Several American soldiers screamed in terror. It's the end. However, the anticipated cataclysmic explosion failed to materialize. 1 second, 2 second wait, it seems we're still alive? Major Miller was the first to emerge from the depths of sheer terror. The aircraft had not exploded. It was a deception. Miller instantly grasped the situation. Chapter 10. When did the Dragon Country create a 10,000-ton destroyer? The radio channel crackled to life once more. American military aircraft, this is your final warning. Leave immediately, or we will initiate a live-fire attack. The countdown echoed ominously. 10, 9, 8. It felt as if he had just traversed through the depths of hell, utterly shattering all of Major Miller's arrogance and courage. Turn around. Turn around immediately, Miller bellowed, expending every ounce of his strength. The pilot, as if granted a reprieve, clumsily maneuvered the control stick. The cumbersome reconnaissance aircraft executed a clumsy, evasive maneuver, retreating in a hasty flight back to its original direction with the widest possible turning radius. Moments later, the radar lock alarm finally ceased. Miller slumped in his seat, only then realizing that his back was drenched in cold sweat. Yes, in the command cabin of Coast Guard 001, as the red dot representing the American reconnaissance aircraft fled in panic from the radar screen. The tension that had gripped the commanders dissipated, erupting into a fervent cheer. What a relief. Previously at sea, they had always been the ones harassed without restraint by American aircraft. Today, it was finally the Americans who were fleeing in disarray. Smart move, well played. Chun-Bei beamed at his computer, utterly elated. The Americans had fled in terror, and it felt exhilarating. The players successfully drove away the American aircraft, earning a reward of 1 technology point and 1,000 gold coins. A game notification popped up. Chun-Bei's face lit up with surprise. There were rewards. A delightful bonus indeed. Meanwhile, at the American military base in Yokosuka, Japan, Admiral Scott Beck, commander of the Pacific Fleet, was in high spirits, engaging in an interview with a group of Japanese journalists. Our collaboration with allies is the cornerstone of maintaining peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific region, Beck stated confidently. Addressing the camera. The presence of American forces in this region not only safeguards our allies' security, but also ensures the smooth passage of international shipping routes. As Beck spoke, a colonel hurriedly approached, interrupting the interview. Admiral, I apologize for the interruption. Leaning closer, the colonel whispered urgently, we have just received critical intelligence that requires your immediate attention. He continued to whisper a few more words. Beck's smile instantly froze as he turned to his aide with a questioning gaze. The colonel nodded gravely. The color drained from Beck's face as he stood abruptly, stating stiffly, I'm sorry, everyone, but I have an urgent military matter to attend to. This interview is concluded. Ignoring the stunned expressions of the reporters, Beck turned on his heel and departed swiftly. Minutes later, Admiral Beck pushed open the door to the base's Joint Command Center. Upon entering, he was met with a high-definition satellite image displayed on the central screen. 3 vessels of the Dragon Nation were sailing in a triangular formation upon the Azure Sea. Among the vessels, Baker instantly recognized 2 as the Type 050, 2 major destroyers of the Dragon Kingdom's navy. In the next moment, his attention was captivated by a 3rd warship. This ship was larger than the combined size of the other 2, boasting sleek and modern lines, with a design style that starkly contrasted with any current vessels of the Dragon Kingdom. Is this a new type of warship from the Dragon Kingdom? Baker inquired aloud. Reporting to the general, a combat officer promptly replied, a satellite detected this fleet of the Dragon Kingdom 15 minutes ago, approximately 30 kilometers northeast of Renai Reef. Based on image analysis, this unidentified ship measures about 180 meters in length and approximately 23 meters in width. We estimate its full load displacement to be between 12,000 and 13,000 tons. Judging by its appearance, it is undoubtedly a newly designed large destroyer. Impossible. Baker furrowed his brow, instinctively rebutting. Since when did the Dragon Kingdom construct a destroyer of this tonnage? His initial reaction was disbelief. Although the Dragon Kingdom's shipbuilding industry had advanced rapidly, it would require at least another decade of technological accumulation to independently build an advanced destroyer of this magnitude. Yet the satellite images lay before him. General, based on our intelligence, the Dragon Kingdom's current shipbuilding technology cannot independently achieve the construction of a destroyer of this scale, another technical officer interjected, pointing out details on the screen. Moreover, as you can see, this ship has at least 112 vertical launch systems, a number that even surpasses our latest Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. Additionally, its main gun caliber and the radar array on its integrated mast are entirely unlike any weaponry currently employed by the Dragon Kingdom. Baker stared intently at the screen, his gaze filled with uncertainty. He turned to an intelligence officer beside him and asked, "Is this their newly constructed Type 052 destroyer? I recall your intelligence department reporting 6 months ago that the Dragon Kingdom was developing this class of warship." The intelligence officer, a seasoned colonel responsible for collecting naval intelligence on the Dragon Kingdom, replied, reporting to the general, "This is not a Type 052 destroyer." The colonel explained, "The full load displacement of the Type 052 is only over 6,000 tons, which is a significant discrepancy from the vessel before us. Furthermore, the Type 052 has only 48 vertical launch systems, far fewer than this ship possesses. More importantly, according to our most reliable intelligence, the only 2 existing Type 052 destroyers of the Dragon Kingdom are still in the Jiangnan shipyard's dock, with a considerable time before they are launched. Our spy satellites have been continuously monitoring the shipyard and can confirm that those 2 ships have not left the dock." Baker frowned, remaining silent. This suddenly emerged mysterious warship from the Dragon Kingdom instilled in him an unprecedented sense of pressure. In the command room, there was a moment of silence. With no one daring to speak, the air seemed to thicken, with only the deep hum of electronic devices reminding everyone that they were within the most confidential command center of the United States military. "Report." A communications officer shattered the silence, hastening towards General Baker, tightly clutching a recently decrypted intelligence document. "General, we have received the latest intelligence regarding the mysterious warship of the Dragon Nation." "Speak," Baker replied in a grave tone. "According to our intelligence network within the Dragon Nation, this warship first appeared at 10:07 p.m. local time yesterday at the Sanya Coast Guard port in the Dragon Nation." A new photograph appeared on the large screen. Captured at night, the image was dim and quite blurry, barely revealing the silhouette of a massive warship. Chapter 11. Fisherman. Our warship has arrived. Bring up the satellite map of the Dragon Nation's Sanya base, Baker commanded. Soon, a high-resolution satellite map displayed on the screen, showcasing the layout of the Dragon Nation's Coast Guard base in Sanya, with various docked vessels clearly visible. Coast Guard base? Baker's expression turned perplexed. By logical standards, the most advanced warships of the Dragon Nation should be stationed at major naval ports like Qingdao, Dalian, or Zhanjiang, rather than appearing at a mere Coast Guard base. Baker remained baffled. At that moment, new intelligence arrived. A reconnaissance aircraft encountered electronic interference from the Dragon Nation-S warship while heading towards the Renai Reef airspace, forcing it to return. General Baker's brow furrowed deeper. The situation was now unmistakable. The Dragon Nation indeed possessed a highly advanced and mysterious warship, with electronic warfare capabilities that posed a substantial threat to the United States military. Baker decisively issued a new order: immediately dispatch another reconnaissance aircraft to the Renai Reef Sea area to gather intelligence. Pausing briefly, Baker inquired, "Which of our 7th Fleet ships is closest to the Renai Reef?" A combat officer promptly located the position on the electronic maritime chart. "Report, General, the USS Stratton, a missile destroyer, is currently about 800 kilometers from the target sea area. Order the Stratton to immediately change course and proceed to the Renai Reef Sea area to collect information on the Dragon Nation-S new warship." In a rental house, Chun Bei was still immersed in excitement, having left his seat to retrieve a can of chilled Red Bull from the refrigerator in celebration. Unfortunately, the footage of driving away the American aircraft could not be made public. If that video were shared on military forums, countless military enthusiasts would surely be ecstatic. "Commander, we are 10 kilometers from the target sea area," an intelligent voice announced. Chun Bei glanced at the screen and continued eating. Moments later, as the 055 destroyer reached the mission area, the radar screen illuminated with dozens of light spots representing vessels, resembling a swarm of ants skimming across the sea surface. Intelligent reporting. "Commander, at the entrance of Renai Reef Lagoon, a fishing vessel registered under the flag of Fame Monkey has unlawfully trespassed into our maritime territory and is currently in a standoff with our fishing fleet." A data window has emerged on the right side of the game interface, displaying the statistics of both parties: 13 vessels from the Fei side and 16 from our own. As the camera zooms in, the tense atmosphere on the water becomes palpable. The vessels are entangled, their crews visibly agitated, brandishing harpoons, knives, and iron rods, exchanging heated shouts across the few meters that separate them. "Get out! This is our sea!" A fisherman from the Dragon Nation bellows through a megaphone from the bow of his ship. "You are the illegal poachers. Go back to your homeland," retorts a dark-skinned man aboard the Fame Monkey vessel in broken Mandarin. On a fishing boat marked Xiong U-031, the captain takes the helm, abruptly steering the robust prow to ram into the side of an adjacent Fei fishing vessel. A thunderous crash reverberates as the two boats collide, instantly escalating the conflict. A large-scale maritime brawl seems imminent. Just as tensions reach their zenith, a young fisherman from the Dragon Nation suddenly points toward the distant horizon, summoning all his strength to exclaim with fervor, "Look, our warships! Our warships are coming!" There, at the meeting point of sea and sky, 3 warships of the Dragon Nation emerge. The imposing silhouette of a Type 055 destroyer leads the formation, flanked by 2 frigates. The trio slicing through the waves with an air of formidable might as they approach the conflict zone. After a brief silence, a thunderous cheer erupts from the Dragon Fishermen's fleet. Some wave the national flag, others leap with excitement, while a few wipe away tears. In that moment, they are no longer isolated fishermen, but proud citizens of the Dragon Nation, bolstered by the strength of their homeland. In stark contrast, the fishermen from the Fey side turn pale, panic setting in. In the gaming interface, the scene has automatically transitioned to a high-magnification telescope mode, allowing a clear view of the standoff between the 2 fishing fleets. "Damn those black monkeys," Chun Bei mutters under his breath, contemplating the idea of ordering the bombardment of the Fey vessels, sending them to the depths of the sea. Yet, such brutality seems excessive. Patience, he thinks. There's time to toy with the Fey. Soon, an idea forms in Chun Bei's mind, to detain these illegal intruding vessels and their crews. However, a practical concern arises. To execute the detention of the boats and personnel, small speedboats and armed teams must be deployed, while the warships are equipped with speedboats. The crucial issue is the lack of personnel. No, that cannot be. Chun Bei's gaze shifts toward the lively figures within the command cabin. There are commanders, technicians, and Marine Corps. However, can one truly command? Let us see. Intelligence. Chun Bei issued orders, directing the Sanya Coast Guard to command the Marine Corps members to assemble fully armed on the deck, ready to board fast boats and seize all Filipino fishing vessels and their fishermen. The command was received, Commander. In the next moment, the voice of the broadcast echoed through various compartments of the 001. The command was clear. All Dragon Strike team members, arm yourselves and assemble immediately on the rear deck. I repeat, all Dragon Strike team members, assemble immediately on the rear deck. The suddenness of this order left the waiting commandos and officers in various chambers momentarily stunned. What is happening? Is 001 commanding our Dragon Strike team? In the command cabin, all the commanders directed their gazes towards Zhou Zhenghua. Zhou swiftly grabbed the communicator and called out loudly, "I am Zhou Zhenghua, the captain of the Sanya Coast Guard base. May I inquire what mission is to be executed by ordering the Dragon Strike team to assemble on the deck?" After a few seconds of silence, an electronic voice from the broadcast responded, "Mission: seize all Filipino fishing vessels and personnel in the nearby waters." Zhou Zhenghua's face displayed a look of astonishment upon hearing the announcement. Just moments ago, they had indeed witnessed the standoff between their fishing boats and the Filipino vessels on the distant sea. The officers in the command cabin were urgently discussing what measures to take. Unexpectedly, before they could devise a plan, the Coast Guard 001 had already taken the initiative, employing decisive measures to seize all illegally crossing vessels and personnel. Chapter 12. Raising the White Flag. The mysterious warship opened fire. It appears that it is indeed serious about executing this escort patrol mission to the Renai Reef. This should have been the responsibility of the 2 naval destroyers. Please cooperate with the execution. The electronic voice interrupted Zhou Zhenghua's thoughts once again. He keenly noted a particular detail. This time, the electronic voice used the word please. A subtle shift occurred in his mind. After pondering for a brief moment, Zhou Zhenghua made a resolute decision. Understood. We will fully cooperate with the operation. After stating this, Zhou picked up the intercom. Dragon Strike Team, this is Zhou Zhenghua. I command you to assemble immediately on the rear deck and prepare to board the boats. The mission objective is to seize all Filipino fishing vessels and personnel ahead. The order was issued. The Dragon Strike team members, who had been waiting in their respective compartments, immediately sprang into action, armed to the teeth. The team members swiftly surged out of the ship's interior, quickly gathering on the spacious rear deck and forming 2 neat lines. Zhou Zhenghua and several other commanders also descended from the command cabin to the deck. Report, Captain. The Dragon Strike team is assembled and ready for your instructions. The team leader, Zhao Hailong, hastily approached Zhou Zhenghua and saluted with a perfect military gesture. Zhou Zhenghua returned the salute and reiterated the command, emphasizing distinctly, during the operation, if faced with violent resistance, warning shots may be fired, and if necessary, retaliatory fire is permitted. Understood. Subsequently, the lifting cranes on either side of the 001 vessel gradually activated, hoisting 3 high-speed assault boats from the deck and gently lowering them into the sea. A dozen agile members of the Dragon Strike team swiftly descended the rope ladder to board the boats, promptly taking their positions. Zhou Zhenghua, standing high on the deck, watched as the engines of the 3 boats let out a low growl. cutting through the water and creating 3 white wakes as they sped towards the confrontation area near the distant fishing boats. Meanwhile, aboard the 168 vessel on the left side of the formation, Captain Ma Jun was observing every move of the 001 ship through binoculars. The officers beside him whispered among themselves. What was happening? Is the 001 truly on a mission? It seems so. What could its purpose be? A vessel so advanced, coming to do the work of our navy? Captain Ma Jun lowered the binoculars and interjected. Although it remains unclear for now, it has not displayed any hostility towards us. Rather, it has shown goodwill by undertaking tasks on our behalf. From this perspective, it is at least a positive development for the time being. Indeed, the first officer nodded in agreement, considering the technological prowess of the 001. If it truly harbored ill intentions, it would spell trouble. As they spoke, the 3 high-speed boats surged forward like arrows released from a bow, rapidly approaching the fishing boat standoff area. Naturally, the fishermen have long spotted the boats. Yet most of their attention was captivated by a colossal figure standing majestically on the water, resembling a mountain. Good heavens, is that our warship? It is enormous. An absolute behemoth of the sea. When did our navy acquire such a vast vessel? Even from 4 or 5 nautical miles away. The fishermen could feel the unparalleled visual impact and psychological shockwave emanating from the super battleship. The Filipino fishermen were equally astonished, albeit paralyzed by fear. The Dragon Kingdom's warship is that large? Terrifying. The previously boisterous Filipino fishermen, who had brandished sticks and shouted insults, were now stripped of their bravado. Many of them, their hands trembling, dropped their weapons onto the deck with a clatter. As the 3 boats charged in like fierce tigers, the clustered Filipino fishing vessels scattered in a panic, swiftly turning their bows and revving their engines in a frantic attempt to flee. Still hoping to escape? Block their path. Observing this, our fishermen immediately sprang into action, their boats instinctively forming a surrounding line to collaborate with the assault boats for interception. The sea was instantly thrown into chaos with the roar of fishing boat engines, the shouts of fishermen, and the splashes of the speedboats intertwining. The 3 assault boats, akin to hunting dogs, precisely targeted each Filipino fishing vessel attempting to escape, commanding them through loudspeakers to halt and submit to inspection. At that moment, a swift Filipino fishing vessel, relying on its powerful engine, appeared poised to break free from the encirclement. A resounding boom echoed from a distant steel behemoth. Almost immediately, the sea surface less than 20 meters ahead of the fishing boat erupted with towering columns of water. The monstrous waves generated by the explosion crashed violently against the hull of the vessel, causing it to sway violently, leaving the Filipino fishermen aboard in a state of sheer terror at this unforeseen spectacle. The Dragon Nation's warship had opened fire. In an instant, dread obliterated any lingering sense of hope. The captain, trembling, tied a white vest to a bamboo pole and raised it high. Surrender. The cannon fire did not cease. Boom! 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 The primary cannon of the 055 destroyer roared ceaselessly. Shells whistled through the air, landing precisely around several hesitant Filipino fishing boats attempting to flee. Columns of water surged from the sea, creating an insurmountable wall of death. In that instant, all the Filipino fishing vessels were paralyzed by fear, obediently halting in place. Engines silenced, hands raised high in surrender. It was no jest. With the warship firing, who would dare to move? Not only the Filipino fishermen, but even Commander Ma Jun aboard the escorting ship 168 was startled by the first cannon blast, instinctively exclaiming, "Who is firing?" "Report. 001 is firing." The communications officer replied loudly. Ma Jun, raising his binoculars, confirmed the astonishing reality. 001 was indeed firing. This was truly unexpected. However, recalling 001's unique status, he felt a wave of reassurance wash over him. After all, only extraterrestrial entities could act so decisively without the burden of political reservations. Through the binoculars, Ma Jun observed that the shells were landing around the fishing boats, serving as a show of force rather than a direct attack on the vessels themselves. This indicated that 001 was still exercising restraint. As Ma Jun pondered, the young officers behind him erupted in uncontainable cheers. "Well done. 001 has performed admirably." Meanwhile, within the command cabin of 001, jubilation reigned. The Maritime Police 001, or the enigmatic alien civilization, had undertaken an action the Dragon Nation's navy had long desired to execute, but had hesitated to do due to various political and diplomatic concerns, firing warning shots at the illegally intruding Filipino fishing boats and forcibly detaining them. Chapter 13. The Military Enthusiast's Bewilderment. Does the Coast Guard have such a large vessel? Zhou Jing's face also betrayed his excitement. As a veteran who had safeguarded the coastal frontiers for over 20 years, he had witnessed countless instances of foreign fishing boats brazenly invading our territorial waters, provoking our fishermen while we, due to political calculations and diplomatic apprehensions, could only endure. From today onward, things would be different. He took a deep breath. Zhou Jingwei soon regained his composure, his mind swiftly contemplating the potential repercussions of the situation at hand. It was foreseeable that the Philippine monkeys would vigorously protest, rallying support from the United States, Japan, and other nations, fervently amplifying the so-called narrative of Dragon Nation's hegemony, all the while portraying themselves as innocent victims. Yet in truth, with such a diminutive stature, they posed little threat to stir significant turmoil. This thought flickered through his mind, allowing Zhou to attain complete tranquility once more. In his possession was a secure satellite phone. He dialed a number, preparing to report to the higher-ups, under the absolute deterrence of military might. The subsequent actions unfolded remarkably smoothly. A dozen Philippine fishing vessels remained stationary, their crews, with hands clasped atop their heads, crouched on the decks, obediently submitting to inspection and disarmament by the Dragon's assault team. Witnessing this scene, jubilant cheers erupted from our fishing fleet. "Long live the Navy! Long live the Navy! Long live the Navy!" A wave of satisfaction washed over them. As they drew closer, the previously indistinct silhouette of the Coast Guard vessel 001 materialized clearly before the astonished fishermen. A young fisherman, standing at the bow, was left utterly dumbfounded upon recognizing its full form, his mouth agape as if it could accommodate an egg, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. He was astonished that the colossal craft remained steadfast, resembling a steel behemoth from a science fiction film. "Goodness, it's enormous," stammered the fisherman. "Is this truly our warship?" The description of large no longer sufficed. It resembled a moving mountain of steel, quietly dominating the sea's expanse. "How many tons could it possibly weigh? It surpasses all the warships we have ever encountered." Another fisherman trembled, exclaiming, "When did our Dragon Nation acquire such a super battleship?" Simultaneously, a Filipino fisherman was escorted by two assault team members, just stepping onto a speedboat. Instinctively glancing upward, he caught sight of the Coast Guard 001. In an instant, he was struck with awe, his legs buckling beneath him, nearly losing his balance. Had it not been for the timely support of the team member, he would have surely collapsed onto the deck. The other Filipino fishermen also beheld the enormous vessel, their eyes widening in disbelief, expressions of horror etched across their faces. Among them was a burly man, his face adorned with flesh and a scruffy beard, who had previously attempted to resist and shout during the boarding inspection. Yet, upon witnessing the steel leviathan, all his courage seemed to evaporate, the fierce expression on his face vanishing without a trace. It was replaced by profound fear and reverence, rendering him more docile than a sheep, scarcely daring to breathe. The Dragon Nation's warship was indeed so colossal. How could they possibly resist? Would they dare to stab it with harpoons? In that moment, the last vestige of hope among the Filipino fishermen was utterly extinguished. The Coast Guard 001 drew ever closer. As the colossal vessel glided past the fishing boats, its immense hull loomed like a moving mountain of steel, entirely blocking out the sun above. The fleet of fishing boats was enveloped in a vast shadow. In that moment, the fishermen aboard looked up, their expressions filled with fervor. Some gasped in awe, rendered speechless for a time, while others clenched their fists in excitement, their bodies trembling. One could not contain a jubilant shout. "This is our warship, our Dragon Nation's warship." A young fisherman in his 20s, gazing at the fluttering five-starred red flag atop the ship's mast, felt tears welling in his eyes. In the cockpit, a tan captain in his 50s stood tall, rendering a formal military salute to the passing giant. At that moment, an unprecedented sense of security and genuine pride surged within the hearts of all the fishermen. Unbeknownst to them, over an hour slipped by. Chun Bei had been engrossed in the unfolding drama. The special forces boarding speedboats, surrounding the Filipino fishing vessels, the warship firing warning shots, and ultimately the enemy's surrender. The entire sequence was far more riveting than any Hollywood blockbuster. Suddenly, a pleasant notification chimed in the game. Mission phase completed. Phase 1. Arrival at target waters. Mission accomplished. Reward: 1,000 gold coins, 1 tech point. Phase 2. Seizure of illegal intruding fishing vessel completed. Reward: 3,000 gold coins, 1 tech point. The screen refreshed with new data. Current gold: 15,000. Current tech points: 14,100. Haha, delightful. Chun Bei beamed at the rising tally of gold and tech points. The scene shifted back to the fishing boats. Many fishermen still felt as if they were dreaming, watching the immense warship sail into the distance. A young fisherman named Chun Xiaobo, having just captured a breathtaking video on his phone, approached the captain, gripping his device tightly, and uncertainly inquired, "Captain, Can we post this video online? I recorded everything, including the footage of the giant ship firing, rubbing his stubbled chin. Captain Lee Dehai contemplated before responding, it should be permissible. Up to this point, the Navy has not communicated any confidentiality restrictions to us, which implies we can share it. Indeed, this time, the command center had not imposed any form of news control on the scene, including restrictions on the fishermen's mobile recordings. This was largely because it was an impossible task to keep a warship of such magnitude completely secret under broad daylight. Above them, reconnaissance satellites from various nations passed overhead every moment, and one could imagine that American satellites had already captured clear images of the Coast Guard 001. Moreover, there was a primary and rather helpless reason. The Navy had no authority to command 001. Otherwise, it would have been stationed securely under strict protection. After receiving the tacit approval of the old captain, Chen Xiaobo immediately uploaded the video he had just filmed to the platform, accompanied by an incredibly provocative title, Live Coverage. Our Navy's resounding strike on Filipino fishing vessels at Renai Reef. Mysterious giant ship emerges. Stunning footage throughout. Meanwhile, far away in a mountain city, University student Wang Lei had just opened the platform, eager to see what fresh videos awaited him. At that moment, a particular video title caught his attention. Live Coverage? Mysterious giant ship? Curiosity piqued, Wang Lei clicked to play. As the video began, the footage was somewhat shaky, clearly shot on a mobile device. Yet the content caused Wang Lei's eyes to widen in astonishment. He saw 3 speedboats fiercely pursuing a Filipino fishing vessel, with the terrified fishermen scrambling in all directions. Especially gripping was the moment when a dull cannon roar echoed, and the giant ship boldly opened fire, sending towering columns of water erupting into the air. Wow! Wang Lei felt a surge of excitement. Well done. It was about time. To deal with these ruffians in the South China Sea, we must let the artillery do the talking. The video was not yet finished. As the fishing vessel moved, a colossal object appeared in the frame, causing Wang Lei's eyes to bulge in disbelief. In the next instant, the screen was inundated with a flurry of comments. What the hell? What kind of warship is this? My goodness. Coast Guard 001. When did our Coast Guard acquire such a massive vessel? This tonnage is definitely above 10,000 tons. Just look at those 2 naval destroyers beside it. Compared to this, they seem like mere juniors. Can this video be any more fake? The ship design. This stealth technology. I've never seen anything like it. Is this a new model secretly developed by our Navy? What on earth is Dragon Country Coast Guard? No way. This video must be fake. Can the Coast Guard really have such a large warship? What a joke. The Coast Guard is so outrageous. Are computer special effects really that advanced nowadays? I must admit, Dragon Country Coast Guard sounds quite amusing, haha. Huh. Wang Lei noticed the comments, some claiming the video was fake, others questioning the Dragon Country Coast Guard. What was the fuss about the Dragon Country Coast Guard? Was there an issue? Not being a military enthusiast, Wang Lei naturally did not grasp the intricacies involved. However, the comment section below the video was bustling with activity. How ridiculous. The Navy doesn't even have warships this large. How could the Coast Guard possibly have one? This is nonsense. I implore all experts to authenticate the video's legitimacy. It feels like a game. I am utterly confused. If it's real, then the origins of this ship would be too mysterious. Fellow netizens, and even some military enthusiasts, were left baffled upon seeing the giant ship painted with Dragon Country Coast Guard. What is happening? How can it be a Coast Guard vessel? Don't tell me that such a massive battleship equipped with heavy artillery is merely a fishing administration ship? A fishing administration ship, my foot. Does your fishing administration ship carry a 130mm naval gun? As you observe that close-in weapon system, it boasts an impressive capacity of 11.3 million rounds. The crucial aspect is its tonnage, which is estimated to exceed 12,000 tons, approaching the classification of a cruiser. Yet, I can't help but feel that the design of this vessel is rather peculiar, distinctly unlike any of our currently active warships. Perhaps it is the angle of the footage that fails to capture the densely packed vertical launch units on the warship's deck. Otherwise, the enthusiasts would surely be in an uproar. The video was quickly disseminated across major social media platforms, rapidly gaining traction. In our rented apartment, Chen Bai, thoroughly satisfied after witnessing a riveting performance, rose to retrieve a bottle of ice water from the refrigerator, gulping down half of it before returning to his computer, leisurely lighting a cigarette. Within the game, 3 assault speedboats had already returned to the Coast Guard 001, while the Filipino fishermen appeared dejected, escorted by the Dragon assault team members as they ascended the rope ladder onto the massive vessel's deck. Chen Bai couldn't help but emit a villainous chuckle at this sight. After a thorough count, the operation had successfully seized 13 fishing boats and apprehended 36 illegal cross-border fishermen. In Chen Bai's eyes, this represented a substantial fortune. Indeed, he had already calculated in his mind preparing to extort a hefty sum from the Philippine miscreants. Want them released? Certainly. A clear price was set, 10 million renminbi per head, with no deception involved. Pay the sum, and they would be freed. In his view, this price was quite reasonable. Chapter 14. The stranded warship the Coast Guard 001 did not linger in its position. After recovering the speedboats and personnel, it maintained its cruising speed, heading toward the core area of Renai Reef. A few minutes later, a reef emerged from the water's surface ahead. This was Renai Reef. The area of this reef is modest, mostly submerged during high tide, with only a few resilient rocks stubbornly poking above the waves. Centrally located on this reef was a dilapidated warship aground. As the distance closed, the derelict vessel's full form became increasingly apparent. Its hull was riddled with rust. Multiple sections decayed and perforated as though a single wave could shatter it to pieces. Chun Bei, or rather every enthusiast concerned about the South China Sea situation, was acutely aware of the origins of this derelict ship. The Black Monkeys had brazenly utilized this intentionally grounded landing ship in a futile attempt to achieve illegal possession of Renai Reef. The question arises, why not simply sink it with a single shot? The answer lies in the historical weakness of our naval power. Reflecting on those impoverished years, the Navy, in its efforts to defend coastal waters, even resorted to the desperate measure of deploying Army tanks directly onto landing ship decks to serve as naval artillery. It was a period fraught with humiliation and hardship. Renai Reef lies a staggering 700 to 800 nautical miles from the mainland, and during that era, the Navy's reach could not effectively extend to such distant waters. Coupled with the backing of the Americans, this ultimately led to the current state of awkward confrontation. Chun Bei's gaze pierced through the game, fixated on the derelict vessel, his expression growing increasingly complex. With the firepower of the Coast Guard 001, annihilating it would be as effortless as a mere flick. A single 130mm shell would suffice to render it utterly disintegrated and submerged. The true challenge lay in the cascade of repercussions that would ensue from its sinking. Chun Bei understood the nation's predicament. At present, Longwa stands at a crucial juncture of economic and technological advancement, necessitating a relatively peaceful and stable external environment. It is not yet the time for a definitive confrontation with the white-headed eagle. Ultimately, it all distills to a singular essence: strength. The current might is insufficiently formidable. Were it robust enough to disregard the clamor of international opinion and to obliterate any form of maritime blockade, why then would there be such hesitance? Even possessing the cutting-edge 055 destroyer, it remains but a solitary vessel. Such power is still inadequate for a decisive showdown. If only he could command a complete aircraft carrier battle group now, he would dismiss any potential repercussions and engage without hesitation. Chun Bei murmured to himself. Strength. He glanced at the data panel in the corner of the screen. Current gold, 15,000. Technology points, 14,100. A mere 86 points remain to unlock secondary technology. The gold reserves are hardly ample. Everything demands time. Based on the current trajectory, it would require at least 6 months of accumulation to garner the confidence for even a partial alteration of the situation. One word: endure. Given Chun Bei's notoriously fiery temperament, the fact that he could suppress his urge to fire and opt for patience and waiting signified that he had achieved complete composure. Just then, a news pop-up appeared in the bottom right corner of the computer screen. Breaking. Our Coast Guard fleet has enacted stringent enforcement in the Renai Reef waters, detaining multiple fishing vessels registered under the Black Monkey flag. Chun Bei clicked on the news. The page transitioned to a special news section on Phoenix Network, replete with images and text, evidently consolidating videos and pictures circulating online. Ah, the news has already reached the homeland. Chun Bei perused the article with great interest, particularly the vibrant comments section, which was already ablaze with fervor. Well done. It was high time to show those monkeys a thing or two. Support the Coast Guard. Resolute. This is the demeanor of a great nation. What model is that colossal ship? Seeking enlightenment. Truly astonishing. Long live the Navy. Those who offend our China shall be punished, no matter the distance. The netizens uniformly expressed support and commendation. Commander, a voice of intelligence interrupted Chun Bei. Detecting that 2 naval vessels registered under the Black Monkey flag had departed from Palawan port and were swiftly approaching the Renai Reef, expected to arrive in approximately 2 hours and 30 minutes. The game interface seamlessly transitioned to an electronic map, where 2 red icons, representing enemy ships, advanced towards the Renai Reef. Chun Bei moved the mouse over one of the icons, and the detailed information of the ship immediately popped up. Hamilton-class frigate, displacement, 3,250 tons, armament, 76mm naval gun, phalanx CIWS. Just these 2 shabby little boats? Chun Bei scoffed disdainfully. The so-called Navy of the Black Monkeys is nothing but an international joke, let alone deploying a Type 055. Even a 3,000-ton law enforcement vessel from the Dragon Kingdom's Coast Guard could easily handle them. Their repeated provocations stem solely from the backing of the White-Headed Eagle. What movements are happening on the side of the White-Headed Eagle? Chenbai Inquirit. Report, Commander. The USS Stratton has turned and is currently approximately 750 kilometers from our vessel. Expected to arrive in 7 hours. On the map, the designation of the USS Stratton appeared. Another Arleigh Burke has arrived. Chun Bei stroked his chin, noting the Americans' relatively swift response. Report, Commander. 360 kilometers northeast of our fleet, a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft has been detected, rapidly approaching our airspace. Expected to reach the vicinity of Rinai Reef in approximately 40 minutes, the intelligent voice announced again. On the electronic map, a red icon representing the American aircraft refreshed. The Americans' planes are coming again. Chun Bei was not surprised. Just then, a green aircraft model representing friendly forces suddenly appeared in the airspace behind their fleet on the electronic map. Immediately, the intelligent voice reported, Commander, a Dragon Kingdom Naval Aviation JH-7 fighter bomber is detected, rapidly approaching our airspace from the northwest. Chenbai palked up instantly. Without a doubt, this Feibao was headed straight for the Americans' reconnaissance aircraft. Sure enough, he was correct. Soon, a communication call came through from the allies in the game. This time proactively notifying Coast Guard 001. Coast Guard 001, this is Ship 168. We have detected the movements of the U.S. reconnaissance aircraft, and naval aviation has dispatched aircraft to intercept and drive them away. Please maintain your course and remain vigilant regarding the airspace situation. Received, came the concise electronic response over the public channel. On the bridge of Ship 168, Captain Ma Jun's expression shifted upon hearing the response. A glimmer of joy flashing in his eyes. 001 responded. Moreover, it was a positive and proactive response. This indicated that this mysterious Coast Guard 001 was willing to communicate and cooperate with their side. This was indeed good news. Chapter 15, Madmen. The people of the Dragon Kingdom are all madmen. Frankly speaking, since last night, the most concerning issue for the naval officers accompanying them has been this uncontrollable ally acting recklessly. With its capabilities, if it were to provoke a significant incident, it would ultimately be the Dragon Kingdom's navy that would have to clean up the mess. 40 minutes passed in an instant. Above the azure sky, a formidable fighter bomber adorned with the emblem of the August 1st Army, resembling a nimble falcon, soared out of the clouds, intercepting a U.S. reconnaissance aircraft that sought to encroach upon its territory. U.S. reconnaissance aircraft, this is the naval aviation of the Dragon Nation. You have approached our airspace. Please alter your course immediately. The pilot, Gao Yuan, transmitted a radio warning over the public channel, subsequently adjusting his aircraft's posture to maintain a precarious yet restrained distance. Shadowing the intruder. Inside the cockpit, several American crew members peered through the windows, beholding the muscular silhouette of the Dragon Nation's warplane, armed with live munitions. Rather than displaying fear, they exhibited disdainful smirks. One individual brazenly gestured with an inverted thumbs up, radiating provocation. The radio warning fell on deaf ears, and the act of escorting the intruder became futile. A cold smile crept across Gao Yuan's lips. In the next moment, he abruptly thrust the throttle and pulled the control stick. The fighter bomber surged forward, tracing a swift arc through the air, positioning itself above and behind the reconnaissance aircraft. Then, with a thunderous momentum, it zoomed past the nose of the U.S. aircraft, nearly grazing its fuselage. The two enormous exhaust nozzles at the tail of the fighter bomber expelled scalding flames and turbulent air, striking the reconnaissance aircraft with the force of an invisible whip. The colossal aircraft immediately encountered violent turbulence, as if seized by an unseen hand, shaking uncontrollably. Beep! Alarms blared within the cabin, and various instrument lights flickered frantically. The previously arrogant American crew members, now stricken with terror, stumbled about, desperately clutching onto anything stable, their voices filled with panic. Madmen, the Dragon Nation's people are insane. The maneuver executed by the fighter bomber had been perilously audacious. A slight miscalculation could have resulted in catastrophic consequences. The American crew, now completely unnerved, dared not linger any longer. After the pilot hastily stabilized the aircraft, he promptly turned it around, retreating in disgrace towards the direction from whence they came. Observing the disheveled retreat of the U.S. reconnaissance aircraft, Gao Yuan chuckled and extended an inverted thumbs up. Well done. Splendid work. Chun Bei, seated before his computer, witnessed the entire breathtaking aerial confrontation from the game's godlike perspective and erupted in enthusiastic applause. The fighter bomber was truly exceptional. Boldness comes with skill. Such an exhilarating expulsion. Is there a reward? Chen instinctively inquired. The game offered no response. Opening the task menu revealed no rewards. It seemed that only tasks completed by one's own hand would yield accolades. After fulfilling the expulsion mission, the fighter-bomber did not immediately return to base, but instead circled above Renai Reef. As it descended in altitude, sweeping past the Coast Guard vessel 001, the pilot, Gao Yuan, was captivated by the enormous ship below. "Wow," he exclaimed over the communication channel. "Is this the new behemoth constructed by our Navy? Its size is staggering. Wait, why does it bear the markings of the Coast Guard?" It was unmistakable. The prominent characters denoting the Dragon Nation's Coast Guard were clearly visible. Impossible. How could such a large destroyer be adorned in Coast Guard livery? Confusion reigned in his mind. With a swift motion, the fighter jet, leaving a long trail behind, elegantly soared overhead, its engines roaring in a thunderous symphony across the sea and sky. Impressive. Chen marveled at the sight. As the aircraft moved further away, his gaze shifted to the grounded warship. At this moment, the distance was less than 100 meters, allowing him to discern figures moving about on the battered deck. They were the so-called maintenance personnel, who were, in fact, Marines from the Philippines. Several station Marines, witnessing the approach of Coast Guard 001, were engulfed in terror. The overwhelming presence of such a colossal warship was unparalleled. A few of them even speculated that not even the formidable United States Navy possessed vessels of such immense tonnage. To claim they were unafraid would be a lie. One young soldier felt his legs weaken beneath him. Stantai, a crew-cut Marine, resembling a leader, hissed in a low but commanding tone. "Pull yourselves together. We cannot allow the Dragon Nation to look down upon us." Under his admonishment, several soldiers forced themselves to suppress their fear, lifting their heads and attempting to appear composed. In a rented room, Chun Bei's fingers rhythmically tapped the table, producing a soft drumming sound. This was a habitual gesture he resorted to while pondering. He was contemplating how to deal with this troublesome vessel before him. Although directly sinking it with a cannon shot was not an option, it did not imply that there were no alternative methods. Surely, there must be a way. He needed to think it through thoroughly. Report to the commander. 2 enemy vessels are approaching. Currently, they are 180 nautical miles away and are expected to arrive in approximately 1 hour and 50 minutes, an intelligent voice announced. On the electronic map, 2 red dots drew closer with each passing moment. Meanwhile, within the command cabin of Coast Guard 001, a report was delivered to Captain Zhou Zhenghua. "We have received a protest note from the Philippines via the public channel, vehemently condemning our illegal detention of their fishing vessels and fishermen, demanding their immediate and unconditional release." Upon hearing this, Zhou's lips curled into a cold smirk. Release them? They're overreaching. As for the protest, it could be dismissed as mere waste paper, unworthy of attention. However, he pondered what 001's thoughts on the matter might be. Zhou was preparing to tentatively inquire through the broadcast. At that moment, the cabin's broadcast system resonated. The artificial intelligence's emotionless electronic voice clearly reverberating throughout the command center. Information received. The Philippine side is required to pay a ransom of 10 million RMB for each detained individual for their release. This, Zhou Zhenghua and all the commanders present were taken aback, their expressions reflecting astonishment. To think that 001 harbored such a notion? To demand a ransom of 10 million RMB right off the bat. While it is not unusual to request a ransom, what is perplexing is why a super creation of a presumably extraterrestrial civilization would desire human currency. Chapter 16. The thrill of power among great nations before the group could regain their composure. The broadcast echoed once more, "Correction, we have altered our position. The ransom amount has now been changed to 100 million RMB per individual, not a penny less. Payment of the ransom is required for release." Indeed, it was Chun Bei who had changed his mind. Just moments ago, he had casually inquired of the AI, "Can the ransom be converted into game currency?" The response was, "Certainly, Commander. The ransom will be automatically converted into game currency at a specified exchange rate." Marvelous. This was splendid news. The ransom must be increased, significantly so. With 36 captives, 100 million each amounts to a staggering 3 billion. This sum could finance the construction of a formidable destroyer in reality. Why not seize the opportunity? Within the command center, a cadre of commanders exchanged bewildered glances, each looking to one another in utter confusion. The thoughts of 001 were, to put it mildly, bizarre and outrageous. The previously stated ransom of 10 million had suddenly escalated. What manner of operation was this? Zhou Zhenghua, equally speechless, had no choice but to relay 001's demands verbatim to his superiors, leaving the higher-ups to grapple with the implications. Distance from the Renai Reef waters, 130 nautical miles. The Fidel Pilar, a patrol vessel with a mere displacement of 200 tons, appeared particularly insignificant amidst the vastness of the South China Sea. Its hull was marred by rust, clearly indicating years of service. Inside the command center, Colonel Ramon Alcaraz, the Philippine commander, bore a furrowed brow, his features etched with an inescapable anxiety. To him, the prospects of this operation appeared exceedingly grim. The disparity in strength between the two sides was alarmingly vast. Intelligence reports indicated that the Dragon Nation had dispatched 3 warships, one of which was an unprecedented 10,000-ton behemoth. And what do they have? The Del Pilar was already one of the Philippine Navy's principal vessels, yet against the Dragon Nation's colossal giant, it resembled nothing more than a child's toy. How could one possibly contend with such disparity? Should they charge headfirst in a battle? Without American support, relying solely on their 2 small ships, they were patently no match for the naval forces of the Dragon Nation. Report, Commander. We have received encrypted communications from headquarters. A messenger hurried over, clutching a freshly decrypted telegram. Alcaraz received a telegram bearing orders from the headquarters of the Black Monkey Navy. Upon reaching the target maritime area, he was to exercise restraint and avoid direct confrontation with the Dragon Kingdom's warships, under no circumstances initiating the first strike. In the event of an emergency, he was to report immediately to headquarters and await further instructions. As he read the directive, a bemused expression crossed Colonel Alcaraz's face. I would indeed like to fire the first shot, yet do I possess the capability to engage them in a head-to-head confrontation? Nevertheless, he understood the command's intent, simply to delay. They were stalling for their American benefactors to arrive for support. Once the American fleet was on the scene, the situation would transform entirely. At that juncture, no matter how formidable the Dragon Kingdom, they would have to contemplate the implications of confronting the world's foremost navy directly. An hour and 40 minutes swiftly passed. As the fleet approached the last 5 kilometers to Renai Reef, Colonel Alcaraz ascended to the deck outside the bridge. The sea breeze howled past, infused with a pungent, salty aroma. Yet at that moment, Alcaraz had no inclination to savor the essence of the ocean. He raised his binoculars, gazing toward the distant horizon. In the next moment, his breath became labored. Although he had already been informed of the Dragon Kingdom's new 10,000-ton vessel, the sight of the colossal steel behemoth, looming like a mountain on the distant sea, struck him with an overwhelming sense of awe, causing his heart to race. My God, is that the Dragon Kingdom's new warship? Alcaraz murmured, his voice trembling. Through the lenses, the warship's hull was painted in striking Coast Guard white. Various advanced weapon systems were faintly discernible, resembling a slumbering steel dragon, poised to awaken and unleash devastating power at any moment. Is this truly a destroyer? When did the Dragon Kingdom construct such a monstrosity? What is our intelligence department doing? Behind him, a chorus of incredulous murmurs erupted among the Black Monkey commanders, filled with astonishment and disbelief. Whether they believed it or not, they had to accept the reality. The massive vessel was right before their eyes. As the fleet drew ever closer, the outline of the gigantic ship became increasingly defined. The sci-fi-like hull and densely packed weapon systems spoke volumes of the warship's might and majesty, leaving one breathless. Colonel Alcaraz's mood darkened further, a dreadful premonition enveloping him like ominous clouds. Meanwhile, at the Philippine Navy headquarters in Manila, a colossal electronic screen displayed real-time footage relayed from the front lines, showcasing high-definition images of the Coast Guard 001. Every detail of the enormous warship was captured with clarity. Its streamlined hull, dense array of weapon systems, towering radar masts, and the prominent lettering of the Dragon Kingdom's Coast Guard emblazoned on its bow. The spacious command hall fell into a profound silence. A dozen naval generals stood in awe, rendered speechless by the imposing sight on the screen. With a displacement of at least 12,000 tons, a naval rear admiral adjusted his glasses, his voice trembling as he spoke. The vessel, exceeding 180 meters in length, was equipped with the most advanced phased array radar system, along with a vertical launch system. The commander-in-chief of the Navy, Admiral Romeo Bronner, remained silent, fixated on the screen for an extended period. Ultimately, he picked up a secure telephone on the desk and directly dialed the presidential office. The emergence of the new 10,000-ton warship from Dragon Country had escalated the gravity of the situation far beyond what their navy could manage. In the waters near Renai Reef, 5 warships formed a standoff approximately 2 nautical miles apart. On one side were 3 vessels from Dragon Country. The Haijindro 01, 10,000-ton destroyer positioned centrally, flanked by the 168 Guangzhou and the 142 Wuxi, collectively forming a formidable triangular formation. On the opposing side were 2 patrol ships of the Black Monkey Navy, the Del Pilar and the Ramon Alcala. In stark contrast, the 2 vessels of the Black Monkey appeared diminutive, akin to 2 small boats facing 3 colossal steel beasts, a disparity evident and profound. In truth, to call it a standoff was somewhat flattering to the Black Monkeys. More accurately, The two ships had halted just outside the 12 nautical mile territorial baseline of Renai Reef, daring not to advance further. "Don't be cowardly," Chun Bei remarked, unable to restrain his sarcasm as he observed the scene from his computer. "Come on in. Just dare to step within the 12 nautical mile range of Renai Reef, and I'll have every reason to deal with you properly." Yet, the opposing vessels remained motionless at a distance, clearly intimidated. "Damn it, weren't you brave before?" Chen Bai mutat in frustration, wishing for the Black Monkey Navy to display more courage, providing him with an excuse to address both ships decisively. Their current position, neither here nor there, was utterly unsatisfactory. He had hoped to gain some technological points and gold from the Black Monkeys. Indeed, the Black Monkeys were intimidated. From a distance, the enormity of the Haijian 001 was merely a concept, but as the distance closed to a few nautical miles, the visual impact of that steel mountain was both palpable and overwhelming. Even Colonel Alcala, the commander, could not suppress a rising fear. On the deck, a young sailor felt his legs weaken, nearly unable to stand. Chun Bei, however, was unconcerned with their cowardice. Even if they were intimidated, something had to happen today. He reported to his allied forces that in 1 minute, the Haijian 001 would conduct live-fire exercises in the Renai Reef waters. Chun Bei issued new directives to the system, simultaneously send a warning to the two Black Monkey naval vessels on an open channel, stating that live-fire exercises were to commence and they should get lost. Yes, use my exact words, get lost, if they were accidentally harmed. They could not blame us for not providing prior notice. Understood, Commander. In the next moment, the broadcasting system within Command Center 001 activated, conveying orders to Zhou Xinghua and his compatriots. Zhou Xinghua was taken aback upon hearing the announcement. A live-fire drill was no trivial matter. It soon dawned on him that 001 intended to deliver a stern warning to the Black Monkeys. Simultaneously, the public radio channel of two Philippine warships crackled to life, transmitting Chun Bei's message verbatim. "Please retreat immediately. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences." Upon hearing this blatant humiliation, Colonel Alcaraz and the cadre of commanders behind him were consumed with fury, their faces flushed with indignation. The Dragon Nation was being excessively arrogant. This was no longer a mere warning. It was a flagrant provocation and affront. Yet, despite their rage, they found themselves powerless. With their two dilapidated vessels and no sign of their American patron, what could they possibly do? They were left with no recourse but to swallow their pride. Boom! Just as the Black Monkeys commanders were seething with anger and caught in a dilemma, a sudden, thunderous cannonade echoed from afar, startling Colonel Alcaraz into action as he hastily raised his binoculars. He beheld the muzzle of the steel behemoth flash with fire, and moments later, a resounding explosion erupted on the sea surface mere hundreds of meters ahead of their warships, sending a towering column of water skyward. Damn it! Alcaraz cursed vehemently on the bridge, his mind swirling with confusion. This was entirely uncharacteristic of the Dragon Nation's usual conduct. Having engaged with the Dragon Navy at sea for some time, he understood their style to be typically restrained, patient, and even somewhat conservative. The brazen display of artillery fire today, provoked without cause, resembled more the actions of their American benefactors. The Dragon Navy's demeanor had shifted dramatically from what he had previously known. Boom! 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 To his astonishment, two additional Dragon Navy destroyers joined the fray, their cannons roaring in unison as they commenced warning shots across the sea ahead. The surface of the water erupted with geysers, accompanied by the thunderous sounds of artillery. An anti-submarine helicopter ascended from the deck of Ship 168, soaring through the air and keeping a vigilant watch. Excellent. Chun Bei, seated before his computer, joyfully slapped his thigh at this unfolding scene. Through the game's real-time visuals, he clearly observed the two Philippine warships under the pressure of cannon fire, finally capitulating and beginning to retreat slowly. They had no choice but to withdraw. They were genuinely intimidated. If the enemy's artillery went awry, it would not merely be a jest. Chun Bei erupted into laughter, feeling an overwhelming sense of exhilaration swell within him. How delightful it was to be among the great powers. An hour later, this one-sided live-fire exercise came to a close. Outside the window, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with a magnificent hue of orange and red. Unbeknownst to him, it was nearly 6 o'clock in the evening. Chun Bei decided to step out for dinner. The game was under intelligent management, so he had no cause for concern. Rising from his seat, he stretched languidly, feeling the stiffness in his back and neck after an afternoon spent before the computer. After a brief session of stretching, Chun Bei slipped on his shoes and exited his apartment. Not far from the community, there was a bustling Sichuan restaurant. As soon as he entered, his gaze was captivated by the television mounted on the wall, which was broadcasting the evening news. This afternoon, The Philippines side urgently summoned our ambassador to the Philippines to formally protest against the illegal detention of their fishermen by our Coast Guard vessels in the waters around Renai Reef. Upon hearing this news, a playful smile emerged on Chunbei's face. "Young man, what would you like to eat?" the proprietress inquired. "I'll have a plate of boiled sliced pork, a serving of mapo tofu, some garlic sauteed lettuce, and a bottle of cold beer." Chunbei ordered 3 dishes. This meal would cost him nearly 100 yuan, which, under normal circumstances, he would have hesitated to indulge in so extravagantly after having just resigned. However, today was different. Having taken a significant amount from the Black Monkey, a celebration was in order. After placing his order, Chunbei took out his phone and opened the Iron Bloodstrong Nation military forum. On the homepage, the first highlighted post read, "Our Navy's new type of 10,000-ton destroyer revealed for the first time, with live footage released." The post popularity was through the roof, with the comment count already in the tens of thousands. Chunbei clicked into it. The first image displayed was of Coast Guard 001 sailing across the sea. The comments below were lively. "No regrets in joining China. May I be reborn in the land of flowers in my next life. Our Navy finally has a 10,000-ton destroyer. I am moved to tears. From the days of air and submarine to today as colossal battleship. It has not been easy. This beauty, this tonnage, is absolutely world-class. Let us elevate our national prestige. Just asking, who else can compare? The Navy is rising." The plethora of comments revealed the pride and excitement of military enthusiasts. Chunbei smiled. He was also a military fan and could deeply empathize with everyone's emotions at that moment. The sudden emergence of such a fantastical 10,000-ton destroyer was indeed exhilarating. As he scrolled, Chunbei came across a highly upvoted comment. "Esteemed members, I have a question. Why does this impressive 10,000-ton destroyer bear the Coast Guard's hull number and insignia? Shouldn't this be a treasure of our Navy? I'm a bit confused. Can someone explain?" Many replies followed, expressing similar bewilderment. Chunbei chuckled mischievously. Who could possibly explain this? Should he tell them that it was because a homebody was playing a game called Coast Guard Simulator? In Chunbei's mind, an amusing scene involuntarily emerged. A colossal fleet led by an aircraft carrier, with all its vessels adorned in the white livery of the Dragon Kingdom's maritime police. Chunbei chuckled. Which maritime police force possesses an aircraft carrier? At that moment, the dishes were served. Chunbei set his phone aside, indulging in his meal while simultaneously perusing the myriad of insightful comments and analyses on the forum. By the time he finished his meal and stepped out of the restaurant, an hour had already passed. As night descended and the city lights began to twinkle, Chunbei took a detour to the nearby supermarket to purchase a few bottles of water and a pack of cigarettes before leisurely returning to his rented apartment. Upon returning to his computer, the game screen displayed the familiar waters of Renai Reef. The warships of both sides were positioned approximately 5 to 6 nautical miles apart, anchored serenely upon the calm sea under the night sky. However, this tranquility merely belied the brewing tension beneath the surface. The Black Monkeys had suffered a significant loss and would undoubtedly seek retribution, accompanied by various underhanded maneuvers. And then there were the Americans. "Intelligence. Report on the movements of the Americans," Chunbei inquired. "Commander, the USS Stratton missile destroyer is currently approximately 200 nautical miles from our position. With an estimated time of arrival in about 2 hours," came the immediate response from the intelligence system. Furthermore, the system added, according to the latest intelligence, the USS Antietam missile cruiser and the USS Chung-Hoon destroyer, both belonging to the United States Navy's 7th Fleet, departed Yokosuka port an hour ago, targeting the Renai Reef, and are expected to arrive in 12 hours. With this report, 2 new red icons representing American vessels appeared on the electronic map, their trajectory clearly directed towards Renai Reef. 12 hours later, this meant that by noon tomorrow, 3 American warships would converge upon this location. Let us await the Americans. Chunbei mused, shifting his focus back to the game itself. Since last night, he had been engrossed in enjoyment without thoroughly exploring the intricacies of this fascinating game system. He first opened the taskbar, where new completion rewards had refreshed beneath the original tasks. Phase task completed. Trigger temporary event. Live fire exercise. Player has successfully conducted a live fire exercise in the Renai Reef, successfully deterring the Philippine Navy. Reward. 1 technology point. Reward. 3,000 gold coins. Current technology points. 15,100. Current gold coins. 18,000 haha. Chunbei laukit. He anticipated that a spur-of-the-moment live fire exercise would trigger a task reward. Intelligence. If we were to conduct another exercise now, would there be any rewards? Chunbei inquired. Commander, continuing the exercise will not trigger a temporary task, and therefore will yield no rewards, the intelligence system replied. Why not? Chunbei asked, intrigued. Game rules prohibit it, came the response. What rules? Can you elaborate? Chunbei pressed. Insufficient data to answer, the system replied. Chunbei was left speechless. Very well. Initially, Chunbei was contemplating the situation. He gazed at the electronic map, where two luminous points symbolizing American warships were displayed. He inquired, when the 3 American vessels arrive tomorrow, will there be an opportunity for a live-fire drill that could trigger a mission? The intelligence system responded affirmatively. Indeed. Chunbei felt a surge of joy. The arrival of the 3 American warships would not only pose a threat to the Americans, but also yield mission rewards, a dual benefit. However, he was still short on technological points. With 18,000 coins at his disposal, he pondered what he could possibly construct. Although the advanced technologies of the future remained locked, he believed that with the current technological level, he could still produce a variety of valuable assets. With this thought in mind, Chunbei consulted the intelligence system regarding the construction mechanics within the game. Commander, you may freely modify, expand, and upgrade the Sanya base utilizing the resources at your disposal. The intelligence system elaborated. As it spoke, the game perspective transitioned from the Reef Sea area to the port of the Sanya Coast Guard base. To Chunbei's astonishment, he discovered that as he maneuvered his mouse, clicking on a dock area would automatically select it and present a menu. Demolish, expand. Similarly, the dry dock and base structures behind the dock were automatically selected, revealing the options demolish and expand. When he directed the mouse to an empty space within the base, the ground was highlighted, prompting a new construct menu to emerge. This was strikingly reminiscent of playing a real-time strategy game. At that moment, Chunbei inadvertently hovered his mouse over a white-painted fishing patrol vessel docked at the port. The ship was selected, and a series of options appeared. Dismantle, repair, upgrade. Hold on, an upgrade is possible? Chunbei's interest was piqued as he clicked the upgrade button. Comrade Commander, shall we proceed to upgrade the Coast Guard Patrol Vessel 35101? The intelligent voice inquired. Is an upgrade truly feasible? Chunbei zooped confirmation. Indeed, Commander, came the reply. Could you elaborate on the upgrade process? Based on the current first-level technology, the vessel's hull structure, power system, communication system, radar system, and weaponry can undergo comprehensive upgrades. As the intelligence system provided this information, a three-dimensional comparative model appeared on the screen. The left side displayed the original appearance of the Coast Guard 35101, while the right showcased the upgraded model. It was evident that the upgraded version was significantly larger, with smoother and more robust lines. Data indicated that its full load displacement would increase from the original 2,000 tons to 3,000 tons. What upgrades will be made to the weaponry? Chunbei was particularly interested in this aspect. The intelligence system promptly provided a detailed list. The weapon system would be enhanced with a 76mm rapid-fire naval gun, and a remote weapon station equipped with a 127mm heavy machine gun would be added to each side of the vessel. The existing high-pressure water cannon is set for an upgrade, with a water pressure capable of being elevated to 145 megapascals, allowing the water jet to reach heights of 150 to 180 meters. Additionally, a directional sonic weapon has been introduced, capable of emitting high-intensity sound waves up to 150 decibels. Chunbei nodded repeatedly, his interest deepening. Particularly, the upgraded high-pressure water cannon and the newly added directional sonic weapon appeared to him as if they were custom-made artifacts for the Coast Guard. Chapter 18. Upgrading the Coast Guard base in the game. Some may question how a mere water cannon could possibly rival naval artillery. Such inquiries emanate from the perspective of the uninitiated. In a vast majority of maritime law enforcement operations, naval artillery often serves merely as a decorative element. For instance, when the Coast Guard Vessel 001 was engaged in driving away and detaining illegal fishing boats, could it realistically employ missiles or main guns to bombard unarmed fishermen? Clearly, that would be untenable. Maritime frictions rarely escalate to the level of military conflict. In this ambiguous battleground, non-lethal high-pressure water cannons have become the most frequently utilized and effective equipment for the Coast Guard. They do not result in fatalities, yet are capable of incapacitating the radar and communication devices on opposing vessels, and the immense force can render personnel on deck unable to maintain their footing. Compared to missiles and shells, they are far more practical. If, earlier at Renai Reef, he had possessed one or two of the newly equipped Coast Guard vessels with powerful water cannons and sonic weapons, his methods of dealing with illegal fishing boats would have been more diverse and agile. How much gold is required to upgrade this ship? Chunbei inquired. The upgrade cost is 800 gold coins, the system replied. That's acceptable, Chunbei acknowledged. Shall we proceed with the upgrade now? Wait a moment. Chunbei reconsidered. It was certain that the Americans had already received intelligence about the Coast Guard 001's appearance at Sanya Port last night. Presently, outside the Sanya base, countless eyes were likely monitoring the location through satellites or other means. To suddenly undertake such a significant modification on a vessel would be far too conspicuous, effectively revealing his hand. No, the upgrade process must remain confidential. Chun Bei's fingers began to rhythmically tap on the table. It seemed he would need to coordinate with individuals from the Coast Guard. After pondering for a moment, he quickly devised a plan. The scene shifted to the command cabin of Coast Guard 001. Suddenly, an idle printer in the corner sprang to life without warning, emitting a faint mechanical whir as it slowly produced a sheet of paper. A nearby communications soldier was momentarily taken aback, but quickly recovered and hurried to retrieve the paper. Upon glancing at its contents, his expression changed dramatically, and he swiftly turned to present himself before Captain Zhou Jinghua. "Report, Captain. You need to see this." Zhou Jinghua received the sheet of paper, which bore a printed line of text. "We kindly request the Coast Guard to immediately commence concealment operations on Dock No. 1 at the Sanya base. It is imperative to construct an adequately vast steel framework canopy around the dock, covered with camouflage netting, to completely obscure it from external observation, particularly from space." Initially, a flicker of confusion crossed Zhou Jinghua's face, but mere seconds later, enlightenment dawned upon him. Constructing a massive canopy outside the dock, this was intended to fully obscure visibility and ensure the confidentiality of operations. Clearly, the enigmatic extraterrestrial civilization behind the Coast Guard 001 was gearing up for significant action. Zhou Jinghua tentatively addressed the empty command chamber. "What is your course of action? What is the purpose of erecting the canopy?" No sooner had he spoken than the printer whirred to life once more, producing another sheet. The communications officer promptly retrieved it and handed it to Zhou Jinghua. The paper contained but a single line: "Expand the dock. The canopy is for concealing the construction process." His suspicions had indeed been confirmed. Zhou Jinghua inhaled deeply and solemnly replied to the air, "Understood. This matter is of utmost importance. I must report to my superiors and seek approval before providing you with a response." In the rented room, Chun Bei patiently awaited a reply, exhibiting no signs of impatience. He was confident that the Coast Guard would have no reason to refuse. Indeed, after merely a short wait of 10 minutes, a response arrived. The Coast Guard agreed to fully cooperate with the dock expansion. The Sanya Coast Guard base exhibited remarkable efficiency. Upon receiving the order, they swiftly organized a construction team overnight. Within the span of just 1 hour, hundreds of workers and various engineering vehicles had assembled around Dock No. 1, energetically commencing the foundational work for the steel framework. Such efficiency warranted commendation. Chun Bei gazed at the construction scene unfolding in the game and marveled appreciatively. At that moment, the intelligent voice resonated once again. "Commander, the U.S. Navy's USS Stratton has entered the vicinity of Renai Reef and is currently 10 nautical miles from our vessel." The Americans had finally arrived. The Stratton destroyer. Inside the command chamber, a dozen U.S. military officers wore serious expressions. "Report to the captain. We are 3 nautical miles from the Dragon Nation fleet," the communications officer proclaimed. "All crew members, assume Condition 1 readiness. Cease advancement and maintain distance," commanded Captain Mark Hamilton. Subsequently, Hamilton exited the chamber and stepped onto the deck of the bridge, raising a high-powered night vision telescope. Through the lens, 3 naval vessels of the Dragon Nation appeared 3 nautical miles away. Even having previously viewed satellite images, Captain Hamilton was still taken aback upon seeing the 001. Soon, detailed observational data regarding this mysterious colossal ship began to flow continuously into the command chamber through the vessel's advanced electronic reconnaissance equipment. "Oh God." Based on radar cross-section and optical calculations, the target vessel's length is approximately 180 meters, with a width exceeding 20 meters and an estimated full load displacement of around 13,000 tons. It has been confirmed that it is equipped with at least 112 units of a universal vertical launch system. Its main phased array radar's dimensions and power far exceed our Aegis system. Listening to the technical officers report one by one, Colonel Hamilton and the assembled commanders were astounded beyond measure. When did the Dragon Nation acquire such advanced shipbuilding technology? Each of these data points has surpassed the most advanced Arleigh Burke-class destroyers currently in service with the U.S. Navy. How could this be possible? Colonel Hamilton, suppressing his astonishment, ordered, "Immediately encrypt all data and transmit it back to the 7th Fleet Command with the utmost priority." In Washington, due to the time difference, dawn was just breaking. At the Pentagon, in a highly classified operations conference room, a dozen high-ranking military officials adorned with stars had already taken their seats. With the arrival of the last 4-star general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, everyone stood to salute. Once seated, the meeting commenced formally. The enormous screen in the center of the conference room flickered to life, and the image of Admiral Scott Beck, commander of the 7th Fleet, appeared. "Mr. Chairman, esteemed generals," Admiral Beck began, his expression grave. "Just a few hours ago, we confirmed the discovery of a new type of 10,000 ton missile destroyer from the Dragon Nation, which has never been publicly disclosed, in the waters off the Renai Reef in the South China Sea. Chapter 19, Astonished. The dock expands itself as Admiral Beck presented his report. Detailed reconnaissance data of the Coast Guard 001 was displayed on the large screen. Full load displacement approximately 13,000 tons. 112-unit vertical launch system. New active phased array radar. The conference room erupted in a flurry of whispers, generals conversing in hushed tones, unable to conceal their astonishment and disbelief. General Beck interrupted a naval operations minister. Are you certain of the authenticity of this data? Sir, I assure you on my military honor that all data has been repeatedly verified by the Stratton and is accurate. Admiral Beck replied emphatically, his resolve unshaken. The room fell into silence. The gaze of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, sharp as a sword, fell upon the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, an Army Major General responsible for intelligence, as he restrained his temper and asked, General, why is our intelligence department unaware of this? The Dragon Nation has constructed such a large warship, and we received not a whisper of it. General Papireau, called out directly, felt cold sweat break out on his forehead. The Intelligence Department invests astronomical resources annually in monitoring the Dragon Nation, priding itself on being well acquainted with its military developments. Yet now, it has exposed such a significant oversight, a veritable disgrace. At the Sanya Coast Guard base, the hour had grown late. It was now 10 p.m. Through the tireless efforts of hundreds of workers, the colossal steel framework surrounding Dock Number 1 has been constructed to nearly one-third of its totality. If this pace continues, it will take several more hours to complete the structure in its entirety. After a brief rest, Chunbei yawned and instructed the system, Intelligent, take over the game. Wake me with the phone alarm once the steel framework is finished. With that, he climbed into bed and closed his eyes. Before he knew it, he drifted off to sleep. After an indeterminate amount of time, a sudden, urgent alarm from his phone jolted Chunbei from his slumber. He sat up and glanced at his device, noting that it was already 2 a.m. Intelligent, is the framework completed? He asked, still yawning. Reporting to the commander. The dock's framework was completed just 1 minute ago, the system replied. Chunbei, invigorated by the news, immediately got up and seated himself at the computer. In the game, Dock Number 1 of the Sanya base was now entirely shrouded by an enormous framework. This massive steel structure measured 500 meters in length, 60 meters in width, and 80 meters in height, resembling a colossal steel cage that enveloped the entire dock. Meanwhile, within the command cabin of the Coast Guard 001, Zhou Zhenghua was communicating via the intercom, reporting, report. The shielding framework has been constructed as per your requirements. After delivering his report, Zhou's gaze instinctively shifted to a display screen within the command cabin, which was simultaneously showing real-time surveillance footage from the Sanya Base Command Center. On the screen, the vast steel framework was illuminated, revealing an empty dock devoid of personnel. Zhou Zhenghua, like all the commanders present, was intensely curious about the so-called expansion of the dock by the Coast Guard 001. Concurrently, in the command hall of the Sanya base, a dozen or so base commanders were fixated on the surveillance screen, eagerly anticipating a miraculous occurrence. In the next moment, without any forewarning, a transformation materialized. The surveillance footage depicted Dock Number 1 seemingly coming to life, autonomously extending and expanding. The robust concrete dock walls undulated like fluid, growing in stature. Within mere seconds, the dock's length surged from 150 meters to 300 meters. Various lifting equipment and mooring devices emerged, sprouting up and being installed as if they were springing forth after rain. The dock, which could originally accommodate only 2 medium-sized vessels, had instantaneously metamorphosed into a super dock capable of easily berthing large aircraft carriers. The entire process unfolded within just a few minutes, signaling its completion. Both Zhou Zhenghua in the command cabin and the group of commanders in the Sanya Base Command Hall were left utterly astonished. They stared in disbelief, as if entranced by some spell. What kind of technology is this? This transcends science fiction. It is nothing short of magical. Indeed, it was akin to witnessing a divine miracle, the creation of something from nothing. At this moment, they truly comprehended that the existence they had speculated to be an extraterrestrial civilization possessed technology, or perhaps magic, that transcended the limits of human imagination. With the expansion of the dry dock now complete, it was time to upgrade the vessels. Chunbei issued new directives to the Coast Guard base via the intelligence system. Soon, the broadcasting system in the command center of Coast Guard 001 resonated once more. Captain Zhou Zhenghua, please coordinate and command Coast Guard vessels 35101 and 35102 to enter dry dock number 1 in preparation for upgrades. The scene shifted to Coast Guard 35101. Docked at the port of Sanya. Within the bridge, Captain Deng Jun and several officers were discussing the steel framework constructed above the dry dock, peering through the porthole. 35,101. This is Zhou Jinghua, came the voice of the squadron commander from the cabin. This is 35101. Captain Deng Jun promptly picked up a communicator. I order your vessel to enter dry dock number 1. Simultaneously, the nearby Coast Guard vessel 35102 of the same model received identical orders. Although the commander did not elaborate on the reason for docking, military orders are absolute. The two patrol vessels swiftly activated their engines, maneuvered their hulls, and entered the dry dock, completely enveloped by the massive steel framework. Once inside the expansive steel structure, the crew members of both ships beheld the transformations within the dry dock. What is happening? Why has the dry dock become so vast? They murmured in disbelief. Has it really changed so drastically? They wondered, questioning their own senses. They were well acquainted with dry dock number 1, and the sight before them was indeed altered. The puzzling part was that the dry dock had not appeared this way just hours earlier. Specifically, prior to the construction of the steel canopy, the dock had remained unchanged. What could have transpired? In that moment, speculation filled the air. Surely, something monumental had occurred during the erection of the steel structure that was beyond their comprehension. Yet, despite their burning curiosity, the crew, as military personnel, understood the importance of confidentiality and recognized what inquiries were appropriate and what were not. Before long, new orders arrived. All crew members disembark immediately and assemble on shore. Chapter 20. The upgraded fisheries vessel, all personnel aboard the two vessels, in accordance with orders, descended the gangway and stepped onto the rejuvenated dock platform. Among them, a young sailor had barely set foot on land when a wave of gasps erupted behind him. Turning back, he beheld the most fantastical scene of his life. The two patrol vessels docked within began to undergo visible transformations. The ships are growing. The young sailor rubbed his eyes vigorously, convinced he was experiencing an illusion. Under the astonished gazes of the onlookers, the hulls of both vessels seemed to possess a life of their own, slowly expanding, reshaping, and reconfiguring. Within mere moments, the two vessels had expanded significantly in size. On the immaculate deck, a brand new 76mm rapid-fire naval gun materialized as if conjured from thin air. At the bow, a sturdier high-pressure water cannon replaced the previous outdated model. Moreover, the radar antenna atop the bridge had transformed into a more advanced integrated mast. Aside from the original hull numbers still visible on the ship's side, the entire vessel bore no resemblance to its former self. It was in essence two entirely new fishery patrol ships. Wait, even the hull numbers had changed. The former Coast Guard 35101 and 35102 had now morphed into Fishery Patrol 001 and Fishery Patrol 002. Including the two captains, all crew members stood frozen in place. Mouths agape, their minds blank. Order. All personnel aboard. Familiarize yourselves with the new equipment. Only when the voice from the intercom resonated did the two captains awaken from their stupor, as if emerging from a deep slumber, jolted back to reality by sheer astonishment. Aboard the ship, the captains were the first to react, leading their bewildered crew back aboard. However, upon entering the command cabin, everyone was once again rendered speechless. Everything within had been completely revitalized. Various instruments and computer screens had transformed entirely. How are we supposed to operate this? Just as everyone stood at a loss, the entire ship trembled slightly and, astonishingly, initiated its own startup. What on earth is happening? Captain Deng Jun was bewildered. Welcome to the Dragon Nation Coast Guard, Sanya Fleet. 3rd Division, an electronic voice echoed within the cabin. 3rd Division? What 3rd Division? I've never heard of such a thing. They had indeed never heard of it. For this was a new designation that Shun Bei had whimsically established within the gaming system to differentiate from the original Sanya Coast Guard Division. Order. Fishery Patrol 001 and Fishery Patrol 002 set sail immediately for the Ren AI Reef waters to execute escort patrol duties. A new command followed through the intercom. What on earth is going on? The first officer stammered, inquiring of the captain. Captain Deng Jun shook his head in confusion. He too was at a loss, as everything that had transpired today was beyond his comprehension. Regaining his composure, Deng picked up the communicator in the command cabin and inquired loudly, "Excuse me, what is our current situation?" "All circumstances are classified as top military secrets." The voice from the intercom interrupted him. "What you have seen and experienced tonight must not be disclosed to anyone, not a single word. Now, carry out your orders." "Understood." Captain Deng Jun immediately straightened his posture and responded emphatically. As the two revitalized Coast Guard patrol vessels slowly exited the dock, vanishing into the nocturnal harbor channel, Shun Bei's gaze shifted back to the Sanya base. He noticed that, compared to the previous night, the port now housed several naval destroyers, and the alert level around them had evidently intensified. Bei moved his mouse over one of the Type 051 destroyers, and an option for upgrade appeared. Upon inspection, the upgrade project encompasses enhancements to radar, power systems, and hull structure. However, these modifications are merely conventional upgrades based on the current technological level, thus offering limited improvements. The crux of the matter lies in the cost of 3,000 gold coins required for the upgrade, which seems rather unworthy. Just earlier, I expanded the dock and upgraded 2 fishery enforcement vessels for only 5,000 gold coins. Intelligence. Is it possible to directly upgrade this 051 vessel into a 10,000-ton class destroyer akin to the 055? Chen-Bai inquired. Report to the commander. It is not feasible, the intelligence responded. Due to the limitations of the current first-level technology, we are unable to conduct generational upgrades on existing vessels or directly construct 10,000-ton destroyers of the 055 class. To undertake such operations, second-level technology must be unlocked. The intelligence then asked, Commander, shall we proceed with the upgrade of this ship? No, Chen-Bai Dietzies Eifli declined. The conventional upgrades for these outdated warships hold little significance and offer poor cost-effectiveness. In a few days, the game system will release new tasks for recycling future decommissioned vessels. Or I can wait until I accumulate enough technological points to unlock second-level technology and construct new ships, which will be far more advantageous. Moving the mouse over the base map, I selected a small shipyard within the base. This shipyard, belonging to the base, can currently only provide basic maintenance services. It is incapable of undertaking major repairs even for a 4,000-ton destroyer, let alone the 055. Therefore, upgrading the shipyard is the most pressing need at this moment. Without hesitation, I clicked on Upgrade. Will it consume 5,000 gold coins to upgrade the ship repair facility? 5,000 gold coins. However, the upgraded facility will be capable of servicing 055 class destroyers, which is essential. This expenditure cannot be avoided. Yes, the coins have been deducted, leaving a balance of 8,000 gold coins. The shipyard upgrade commenced, accompanied by a spectacular array of sci-fi visual effects. The game displayed the ship repair facility rapidly transforming into a fully equipped military ship repair yard with large gantry cranes and dry docks within mere seconds. Consequently, this facility now possesses the capability to maintain and service the formidable 055 destroyer. Upon reviewing, I noted that the shipyard could be further upgraded, ultimately acquiring the ability to independently construct aircraft carriers. Of course, building an aircraft carrier requires upgrading the dry dock and surrounding equipment, which demands a staggering 50,000 gold coins and the unlocking of second-level technology. Currently, my gold coins and technological points are woefully insufficient. After completing the upgrade of the repair facility, the game perspective shifted back to the AI reef waters. The U.S. Navy's USS Stratton destroyer lay quietly anchored several nautical miles away, exhibiting no unusual activity, seemingly engaged in surveillance. Meanwhile, 2 additional U.S. vessels arriving from Fusong are expected to take approximately 5 more hours to reach their destination, which will be around 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. During this interval, no significant events are anticipated. It is anticipated that matters will have to wait until the 3 American vessels arrive. Chen-Bai glanced at the time. It was 2:30 in the morning, and a wave of profound drowsiness washed over him. He decided to rest. Just as he was about to shut down his computer, a voice in the game inquired, 001. May I ask if we could dispatch a team of experts to board the ship? Chapter 21. The expert team boards the mysterious giant vessel at last. The expert team had arrived, the very individuals Chen-Bai had been awaiting. He consented, speaking into the microphone. He issued a brief command before yawning and rising to take a shower and retire for the night. Within the command cabin of Coast Guard 001. When the approval echoed through the speakers, a radiant joy spread across Zhou Jingguo's face. Excellent, he exclaimed, promptly notifying the naval support vessel that had been on standby in the nearby waters. Half an hour later, a team of 32 of the nation's foremost experts boarded the Coast Guard 001 destroyer via speedboat. Upon stepping onto the expansive deck, an elderly expert, Liu, responsible for research on naval artillery, was immediately captivated by the sleek and powerful 130mm main gun at the bow. He hastened toward it, circling the turret as if admiring an unparalleled treasure, murmuring in disbelief, "This is impossible. How could this be?" Several other experts, noticing his unusual behavior, gathered curiously around him, inquiring, "Lao Lu, what is it? Is there something special about this gun?" Liu raised his head, his eyes betraying a mixture of shock and confusion. Our research institute's latest generation of electrodynamic chemical guns is still in the theoretical design and key technology development phase. How could a finished product already be installed here? Before the others could fully process Liu's words, Another expert, Academician Wang, who specialized in naval weapon systems, pointed to the vertical launch cover on the deck. Look here, a total of 112 universal vertical launch cells. All the experts were drawn towards him. Academician Wang's expression was one of excitement. Our Navy's most advanced 052 class destroyer, still under construction in the dock, has only 48 vertical launch cells. At that moment, Zhou Jinghua emerged from the command cabin. Lu Long and Academician Wang, among others, quickly surrounded him, urgently asking, "Captain Zhou, what is going on? What is this ship?" Zhou Jinghua raised his hand in a gesture of invitation and replied solemnly, "Esteemed experts, let's discuss this inside." Entering the meeting chamber, Zhou Jinghua looked at the 32 national treasures before him, his demeanor turning gravely serious. "Ladies and gentlemen, what I am about to disclose pertains to the highest level of military secrets." The expressions of all the experts grew solemn in response. Zhou Jinghua then succinctly recounted everything that had transpired since 10 o'clock last night at the Sanya Coast Guard base. After he finished his narrative, an intense silence enveloped the meeting chamber for several seconds before it erupted into fervor. What? It emerged from beneath the water? An extraterrestrial civilization? Captain Zhou, are you jesting with us? In response to the skepticism of the gathered crowd, Zhou Jinghua offered a faint smile. "Esteemed professors, you are currently aboard this vessel. I believe the very existence of this warship serves as the most compelling evidence. Indeed, this super battleship, which transcends the current technological level, stands as irrefutable proof." After a brief moment of astonishment, the experts promptly requested to tour the various compartments of the warship, particularly the core sections, including the weapons chamber. Zhou Jinghua readily consented. At the entrance of the weapons chamber, several armed members of the Dragon Commando stood guard. As the heavy hatch swung open, the experts stepped inside and were once again profoundly awestruck by the sight of neatly arranged missiles. The Eagle Strike 21 hypersonic anti-ship missile, the Hongqi 9 long-range air defense missile, the Changjian 10 land attack cruise missile. Academician Wang reached out to caress the frigid body of an Eagle Strike 21 missile, his excitement rendering him nearly speechless. These are the next-generation weapons we have longed for, still merely theoretical on paper. Incredible. There truly exists an extraterrestrial civilization. These missiles are invaluable treasures for the defense research of the Dragon Nation. The group of expert professors was elated and exhilarated. Zhou Jinghua, standing aside, observed the childlike enthusiasm and fervent reactions of the experts, unable to suppress his own excitement. He was confident that with these advanced, forward-thinking technologies as a reference, the defense science and technology of the Dragon Nation would undoubtedly experience a transformative leap. The following day, just as dawn broke, the piercing sound of an alarm clock rang out, rousing Chun Bei from his slumber. He instinctively sat up, neglecting to wash his face, and immediately rushed to his computer. He opened the game. Daily sign-in. Congratulations. You have received Technology Points 1. Congratulations. You have received Game Coins 1000 after completing the sign-in. The intelligence system reported on the events that transpired while he was asleep. Report, Commander. From 3 o'clock last night to 6 o'clock this morning, there were 3 aerial confrontations in our airspace. The U.S. military deployed a total of 16 fighter jets for 8 sorties, while our Air Force dispatched J-10 fighter jets for 10 sorties to intercept and drive them away. The most intense encounter occurred around 5 o'clock, with 6 fighter jets engaging in a close-range duel above the Renai Reef for a duration of 30 minutes. Listening to the report, Chun Bei furrowed his brow, feeling quite displeased. Those Americans are truly infuriating. When will our fighter jets have the opportunity to soar freely above their fleets, allowing them to experience the exhaustion of such confrontations? Ultimately, it all boils down to strength. Furthermore, thus far, the Americans have yet to deploy their stealth fighters, such as the F-22 or F-35. Our 5th-generation fighter jet, the J-20, only completed its maiden flight this past January, and it remains uncertain when it will truly attain combat capability. The disparity is immense. Wait a moment. Chun Bei sighed, and a sudden spark of inspiration illuminated his mind. If the Coast Guard's fishing enforcement vessels can be upgraded, then surely the Navy's destroyers can be as well. Might it also be possible to retrofit the Air Force's fighter jets? If we could bring over the existing J-20 prototypes and apply a comprehensive upgrade through a gaming system, wouldn't that effectively bypass the lengthy and arduous process of testing and modifications? This way, our Coast Guard's 3rd Fleet could instantly acquire 5th-generation stealth aircraft. Moreover, while the J-20 has not yet been deployed, its existence does not exceed the current technological realm, suggesting it should be eligible for upgrades. With this thought racing through his mind, Chun Bei promptly inquired with the intelligence system about the feasibility of his idea, receiving a swift and affirmative response. It is indeed possible. Chapter 22. The arrival of the American warship, and the Filipino monkeys feel empowered again. Wonderful. I'm truly a genius. Chunbei nearly leaped from his chair in excitement. Immediately, he pressed further. Can the 2052 destroyers still under construction in the shipyard be upgraded as well? Yes, Commander. Chunbei's eyes brightened with realization. He had discovered an exceptional method to leverage the game mechanics to rapidly enhance national strength while significantly conserving resources. This strategy involves upgrading existing military equipment or those under construction that have yet to be commissioned. Yes, this is fantastic. Chunbei felt a surge of exhilaration. Calm down. Calm down. Just then, the intelligence systems report pulled him back to reality. Report, Commander. The American cruiser Antietam and the destroyer Chung Yun have arrived in the Renai Reef waters. In the Renai Reef waters, the morning sun cast shimmering reflections upon the sea. Yet the atmosphere was charged with tension. The fleets of both sides, separated by a distance of 5 to 6 nautical miles, were locked in a stark confrontation. On one side stood 3 vessels of the Dragon Country's fleet. The Coast Guard vessel 001 remained centrally positioned, flanked by the 168 and 142 ships. Opposing them was a mixed formation comprising the American warships Stratton, Antietam, and Chung Yun, accompanied by 2 Philippine patrol vessels. Commanders on both sides were peering through binoculars, scrutinizing each other's formations and movements. After a crackling burst of static, the public radio channel crackled to life with the Filipinos' blustering proclamation. Warning. Warning. Dragon Country vessels ahead. You have violated our territorial waters. Please vacate immediately. Repeat, please vacate immediately. With the arrival of the American authority, these monkeys suddenly feel emboldened. At his computer, Chunbei scoffed at the clumsy English broadcast. What difference does it make if your American father has arrived? The intelligence has once again issued a navigation warning. Chunbei resolved to retaliate immediately. Within 10 minutes, our fleet would conduct routine live-fire training within a 12 nautical mile radius of Renai Reef, and the coordinates of the exercise area would be communicated plainly to the joint American-Philippine fleet. This, indeed, is a true declaration of sovereignty. Soon, both American and Philippine vessels received the provocative notice of the exercise. The Americans remained relatively unfazed, as they were merely supporting their Philippine allies this time. However, within the command cabin of the Philippine warship, chaos erupted. The audacity of the Dragon Nation was intolerable. Colonel Alcaraz erupted in fury, lamenting how they dared to act so brazenly with our American allies present. 10 minutes later, a resounding boom shattered the tranquility of the sea. The main cannon of Coast Guard vessel 001 fired first, followed closely by vessels 168 and 142, joining in this grand display of fireworks. The reactions from both sides were starkly different. On the bridge of our vessel 168, the commander and sailors were filled with fervor and exhilaration upon witnessing this spectacle. For too long, the leadership had adhered to a strategy of restraint, maintaining a relatively conservative and submissive military policy. The naval officers had long suppressed their frustrations, and today, they finally unleashed their pent-up energy. In stark contrast, the atmosphere within the command cabin of the American vessel Stratton was tense. They acutely felt the aggressive momentum of the Dragon Nation fleet across the waters. A young operations officer could not contain himself and suggested to Captain Hamilton, "Captain, the Dragon Nation is demonstrating their might. Should we not conduct exercises in response? Maintain our observation mission and refrain from rash actions," Captain Hamilton replied, shaking his head in disapproval of the suggestion. He knew well that the mysterious Dragon Nation vessel before them was beyond the purview of a commander of his rank to dictate a response. The most disheartened were the Philippine forces. They could only watch helplessly as the Dragon Nation fleet flaunted its power within their claimed territorial waters. The thunder of cannon fire echoing, while they remained powerless, akin to a subjugated spouse. Colonel Alcaraz anxiously inquired through a secure channel whether any countermeasures could be taken, but received only a cold response to maintain restraint and await orders. This response nearly drove Alcaraz to frustration. Ultimately, he could do nothing but watch in suppressed anger as the Dragon Nation paraded its might on what they claimed as their territory. In a rented room, Chunbei observed the towering columns of water erupting from the explosive shells on the screen. While the scene was indeed spectacular, he felt it lacked a certain thrill, a sense of satisfaction. It was time to provide the Americans and their Philippine allies with something even more exhilarating. Only he remained, seated before the computer, feeling that the thrill was still insufficient. Chunbei grinned and issued a command into the microphone. Intelligence system, perform a trial launch of a Hongqi 9 air defense missile. Set the trajectory to allow it to soar over the heads of the American-Philippine Joint Fleet. After a brief pause, he added, "Inform Captain Zhou." "Understood, Commander," came a reply. Zhou Jingguo's complexion paled upon hearing the broadcast announcement. He had yet to communicate with the 001 vessel. In the next moment, a cover on the deck of Coast Guard 001 flew open with a resounding bang. Whoosh! Accompanied by a sharp whistle, a white air defense missile, trailing a long tail of fire, shot into the sky like a drawn sword. The missile traced a massive parabolic arc in the air, accurately heading towards the direction of the American Philippine fleet. On the deck of the USS Stratton, a sailor observing through binoculars suddenly noticed a bright spot rising from the opposing warship, rapidly enlarging in his field of vision. A missile! It's a missile! The sailor shouted in terror. Before he could react further, the missile whizzed past him at an altitude of less than 1 kilometer, creating a sonic boom that made his eardrums ache. The sailor's legs went weak, and he instinctively crouched down, his face draining of color. Shit! In the command cabin, Captain Hamilton slammed his fist on the control panel in frustration as he observed the unmistakably clear missile trajectory on the radar screen, cursing vehemently. At that moment, an electronic voice crackled over the public radio channel. We apologize for the accidental misfire during our air defense system testing. Fortunately, no damage has occurred. We sincerely apologize for this incident. Chapter 23. Cowardice, damn it. An operations officer shouted in fury. What nonsense misfire. This is clearly a deliberate and brazen provocation. Captain Hamilton's face darkened, his expression resembling a storm cloud. He understood all too well that this was intentional. The adversary was not merely provoking them. They were testing their limits. Remaining here, who could predict the next outrageous act that the deranged commander from the Dragon Kingdom might undertake? After a brief consideration of the pros and cons, despite being filled with humiliation and anger, Captain Hamilton managed to grit his teeth and issue the command. Fleet. Withdraw and maintain a safe distance of 10 nautical miles. The American warship had retreated voluntarily. Upon witnessing this, the Black Monkeys realized that even their American counterparts had backed down. What significance remained for them here, other than to suffer embarrassment? Colonel Alcaraz, feeling a wave of frustration, was on the verge of spitting blood, and he too ordered the fleet to retreat, muttering curses that condemned the Dragon Kingdom's commander as insane, as well as berating the Americans. To be frank, even Zhou Jinggua and the other commanders were left in a cold sweat from the harrowing scene that had just unfolded. They had not anticipated that 001 would adopt such an audacious approach, executing the extreme maneuver of flying missiles perilously close to the adversaries' heads. A slight miscalculation could have ignited an irreparable military conflict. However, once the initial shock wore off, they found it exhilarating and satisfying. Ha ha ha! Chen Bai. Witnessing the disarray of the American-Filipino joint fleet retreating in a hasty manner on the screen, felt an immense sense of pleasure. Incident completed, extreme deterrence, event rating, perfect. Successfully repelled the American-Filipino joint fleet. Rewards, 2 technology points. Reward, 3,000 gold coins, current technology points. 18,100 current gold coins. 12,000, did you see that? Engaging them comes with rewards. It's definitely about taking down the Americans. As for the 2 decrepit vessels of the Black Monkeys, who cares about them? After an hour of live-fire exercises, the event concluded following the retreat of the American-Filipino fleet, restoring tranquility to the sea. Chunbei stretched lazily and rose from his chair, feeling a twinge of hunger. He went to the restroom for a quick wash and then stepped out to purchase soy milk and fried dough sticks for breakfast. Upon returning to his computer with his meal, the 2 modified patrol vessels, Fishing Administration 001 and 002, had already arrived at the Renai Reef waters and successfully rendezvoused with Coast Guard 001. Report, Commander, a smart voice announced as the Sanya Coast Guard relayed the latest news. 10 minutes ago, the Filipino side organized 6 maritime patrol boats, departing from Puerto Princesa, heading towards Renai Reef. The Black Monkeys were up to no good again. Naturally, they would not accept defeat so easily. Commander, intelligence indicates that the Filipinos have also organized several journalists from various countries to accompany them, the report continued. Oh, they've brought journalists along, Chun Bei mused. The Black Monkeys intended to exploit public opinion. Coast Guard 001, this is Ship 168. According to the latest intelligence, the Filipino side has organized a fleet of 6 maritime patrol vessels approaching our territorial waters. It has been confirmed that there are multiple international journalists on board, and it is anticipated that they will attempt to forcefully breach our Renai Reef Lagoon. The radio transmission from Navy Ship 168 crackled to life. Chen Bai smirked irascibly. The Black Monkeys wanted to engage in a war of public opinion. Well, he awaited their arrival to deliver their own demise. Soon, the Allied fleet of Long Country swiftly devised a response. Coast Guard Ship 001, a 10,000-ton destroyer, along with 2 naval destroyers, form an impregnable rear defense line, overseeing the entire operation. Meanwhile, the newly arrived patrol vessels, fishing administrations 001 and 002 positioned themselves at the forefront of the formation as the main force for interception. Simultaneously, 4 armed speedboats from the Dragon Strike team were released from Ship 001, fanning out across the sea. A meticulously prepared trap for the Black Monkeys had been set. An hour later, the silhouettes of the Philippine Coast Guard fleet emerged on the horizon, 10 nautical miles away. The camera focused on the leading vessel, numbered 4401. On its deck stood a dozen foreign individuals, journalists from prominent Western media outlets, such as the Daily News, who were currently aiming an array of cameras and lenses at the distant fleet of the Dragon Country. A seasoned reporter named John Smith had even initiated a live broadcast. As the camera zoomed in, the Coast Guard vessel 001 came into clear view on the live stream. "Oh my God!" John Smith exclaimed in awe. Simultaneously, viewers from around the globe watching the live stream were captivated by the imposing size of 001, flooding the chat with comments like, "What on earth is that? Is it a military ship from the Dragon Country? It's massive. My goodness. Look at the nearby American destroyers. They resemble toys. Unbelievable. I thought only the U.S. Navy possessed ships of such dimensions. When did the Dragon Country become so formidable? Is this really a Coast Guard vessel from the Dragon Country? You must be joking. It's larger than a cruiser." The balance of power in the South China Sea seems to be shifting. After maintaining a safe distance to observe the Dragon Country fleet, the 6 Philippine Coast Guard vessels began to cautiously approach the territorial baseline of Renai Reef, situated 12 nautical miles away. Chapter 24. The Power of the Super Water Cannon on the Fisheries Enforcement Vessel Warning. You are entering waters under the jurisdiction of the Dragon Country. Please turn back immediately. Repeat, please turn back now. This is the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. Your vessel must depart at once. The two sides commenced their routine communications via the public radio channel. As the vessels drew closer, the atmosphere on the sea grew increasingly tense. This precarious standoff lasted for approximately half an hour. At last, the Philippine side could no longer restrain itself. The leading vessel, 4401, suddenly accelerated, sounding its horn as it advanced toward the entrance of the lagoon at Renai Reef, attempting to force its way through. They moved. Intercept. With a command given, the already prepared fisheries enforcement vessels 001 and 002, along with 4 armed speedboats, swiftly moved to engage. On the surface of the sea, a thrilling chase and interception unfolded in an instant. The speedboats darted across the water like agile cheetahs, creating white splashes as they weaved through the Philippine fleet, persistently harassing and obstructing them. Meanwhile, 2 modified 3000-ton Coast Guard patrol vessels acted like formidable sentinels, firmly blocking the critical passage to the lagoon. The entire scene was filled with a collision of speed and intensity, rivaling the excitement of a Hollywood naval blockbuster. Yet, the most exhilarating moments were still to come. As the Fisheries Administration Vessel 002 closed in on the lead Filipino ship, numbered 4401, the prow of the ship, equipped with a super-upgraded high-pressure water cannon, lifted its barrel. With a resounding blast, a 100-meter-long jet of water erupted forth, striking the bridge of the 4401 Maritime Patrol vessel with tremendous force. The colossal water column lashed against the radar antennas and various communication devices atop the bridge, producing a cacophony of sharp electrical sparks. In an instant, the delicate electronic apparatus was rendered utterly wrecked. Report to the commander. Our radar has malfunctioned. Radio communication is down, cried a panicked crew member from within the cabin. Before he could finish, with a crack and a shatter, the reinforced glass at the front of the cockpit groaned under the relentless assault of the water jet. Spiderweb-like cracks spreading rapidly until it finally shattered. A torrent of frigid water surged in, drenching the Filipino crew members inside, who screamed in shock, scrambling for cover, each one a soggy mess. On the deck, the situation was even direr. The massive water column swept across, leaving no one unscathed. Crew members stumbled and flailed in disarray. Some, unable to evade the onslaught, were toppled to the ground, rolling helplessly along the deck. In mere seconds, the 4401 vessel had endured the chaos of a tempest, leaving a scene of utter disarray. Ha ha ha! At his computer, Chunbei laughed heartily at the beleaguered Filipino Maritime Patrol vessel. What a thrill! What exhilaration! Witnessing the Black Monkeys receive a lesson from the upgraded super water cannon is simply delightful. This is how it should be done. The upgraded high-pressure water cannon inflicted devastating damage upon the radar and communication systems of the vessels, posing a significant threat to personnel as well. Crucially, this device was classified as a non-military weapon, bearing low sensitivity. Even in the event of casualties, the Filipinos would have no grounds for complaint. After all, it was merely a water cannon attack. Moreover, it was essential to note that only Longwo possessed the proprietary technology for such advanced water cannons, which were prohibited from export. Even the Americans lacked such equipment. The Filipinos could only watch helplessly enduring the assault without the means to retaliate. Chunbei's gaze shifted to another patrol vessel, Fisheries Administration 001, which also unleashed its water cannon. A long jet struck the Filipino ship numbered 4406, which was attempting to flank from the side. Chaos erupted aboard the 4406, with crew members shouting and fleeing in all directions, the deck a scene of utter turmoil. Meanwhile, at a distance of 50 to 60 meters from the battlefield, a Filipino patrol vessel carrying journalists captured this dramatic spectacle. Reporters from various nations raised their cameras, documenting this profoundly impactful scene in its entirety. The live broadcast by journalist John Smith faithfully conveyed the spectacular scene of water inundating the Philippine vessels to audiences around the globe. In the live chat room, foreign netizens, eager for entertainment, inundated the screen with comments. "Oh my goodness, is this a water fight? But the water cannons from the Dragon Kingdom seem a bit too powerful. Look at those poor Philippine boats. They're being washed away like dirty laundry. Hilarious. Is this what they call gray zone tactics? It certainly appears effective. Why isn't the U.S. Navy intervening? Aren't they allies?" The disparity in power between the Philippines and the Dragon Kingdom was stark, and the Philippine vessels seemed to seek their own punishment. Not only were foreign netizens watching the spectacle in the live stream, just a few nautical miles away, aboard the USS Stratton, Captain Hamilton and a cadre of commanders peered through their binoculars, keenly observing this one-sided water battle. They were allies of the Philippines, yet their indifference was striking. The term ally merely signified mutual benefit. In the eyes of the Americans, the Philippines was at best a pawn, a tool to stir the waters of the South China Sea. Allowing a dog to bite is acceptable, but risking the master's own safety for the sake of that dog is clearly out of the question. At this moment on the sea, the patrol vessels Fishery Administration 001 and 002 surged like two enraged water dragons, scattering the Philippine fleet with ease and rendering them powerless. The entire scene was nothing short of magnificent. Chapter 25. The dominance of the Coast Guard brothers intelligent. Have all the images from earlier been recorded? Chunbei felt his blood still boiling with excitement. Recording complete, Commander. Excellent. Chunbei nodded, instructing, post this video to the official Weibo account of Coast Guard 001. Yes, Commander. Soon, Coast Guard 001's account updated with a Weibo post. Our Coast Guard is lawfully executing patrol duties in the Renai Reef waters. Accompanied by a 10-minute video, it captured the entire process from the Philippine vessel's unlawful incursion to their expulsion by high-pressure water cannons, all recorded with clarity and impactful intensity. Simultaneously, on the Chinese internet, related videos began to spread wildly, with netizens eagerly sharing and commenting. What a relief. Well done. This is how it should be. For these clowns, high-pressure water cannons are the perfect response. Ha ha. The Philippine vessels are drenched. They deserve it. Who says the Coast Guard is weak? Their combat effectiveness is off the charts. Vessel 001 is magnificent. Support the Coast Guard. Defend our territorial waters. Just look at the expressions on those foreign reporters. They must be stunned. On various social media platforms, discussions surrounding the incident surged in popularity, with topics such as the Coast Guard's expulsion of the Philippine vessels, the Renai Reef naval skirmish, and the valor of the Dragon Kingdom's Coast Guard rapidly climbing the trending charts. As noon approached, the surface of the sea settled and the dust of conflict dissipated. The 6 Philippine Coast Guard vessels, under the formidable expulsion of the Dragon Country's maritime police, retreated in disgrace, vanishing beyond the distant horizon. Laughter erupted. What a satisfying spectacle. Bravo to our valiant maritime brothers. The naval personnel of the Dragon Country cheered exuberantly, relishing a moment of triumph long overdue. In the past, such provocations left us immobilized. Today, we finally stood our ground with resolve. The sight of the Philippine vessels in disarray was a source of great satisfaction. The power of the water cannons was indeed formidable, at times more effective than naval artillery. They not only succeeded in driving away the intruders without inflicting casualties, but also allowed us to seize the moral high ground in the court of international opinion. Contemplating the success, Chunbei pondered whether to commission another vessel. With only 2 fishery patrol ships at our disposal, we were somewhat constrained. Coincidentally, the rewards for our recent expulsion task had just been credited. Event triggered, forceful expulsion. Event rating, successful expulsion of the Philippine fleet. Showcasing the authority of the Dragon Country's maritime police. Rewards, 2 technology points, 3,000 gold. Current technology points, 20,100, current gold. 15,000 therefore. I shall upgrade another fishery patrol vessel. Intelligence, notify the maritime police base to prepare for an upgrade of 1 fishery patrol vessel at 8 p.m. tonight. Chunbei commanded. Understood, Commander. Notification has been dispatched to the base. 1 upgrade, however, was still insufficient. Chen Bei contemplated that the Third Fleet would require no fewer than 12-16 vessels, each at 3,000 tons, to effectively manage the vast expanse of the South China Sea. The region is rife with disputed islands, and funds remained all too scarce. Suddenly, recalling the 36 Filipino fishermen detained in the cabin of Coast Guard Vessel 001, Chen Bei realized they were akin to walking gold. Intelligence. Do we have any updates regarding the ransom for the fishermen? Report, Commander. According to the latest intelligence, a negotiation team organized by the Dragon Country's officials arrived in Singapore an hour ago. They are expected to commence the first round of negotiations with the Philippine representatives regarding the seized vessels and fishermen at 3 p.m. today, the intelligence officer reported. Understood. Please keep me updated on any developments in the negotiations, Chen Bei added. Rising to stretch, he changed his attire and decided to take a stroll outside. It was essential not to remain cooped up in the dormitory. A bit of exercise was in order. In Singapore, at 3 p.m., the atmosphere in the conference room of the Shangri-La Hotel was serious. The negotiation delegations from the Dragon Country and the Philippines convened for their first official talks. However, from the outset, the discussions were fraught with tension. As the representatives took their seats at the elongated conference table, before the host could even declare the meeting open, a senior-looking official from the Philippine delegation could no longer restrain himself. This official, in his 50s and somewhat portly, abruptly rose from his chair and vociferously accused, in heavily accented English, "We strongly protest against the barbaric actions of the Dragon Nation in the South China Sea. You unjustly detain our fishermen. This is blatant piracy. We demand the immediate and unconditional release of our citizens, along with an apology and compensation for your unlawful actions." His voice resonated throughout the conference room, his hands gesticulating animatedly in the air as if to expel all his indignation. "Please watch your words, sir." A young diplomat from the Dragon delegation promptly stood up, unfazed, and retorted in impeccable English. "Your fishing vessels illegally intruded into our territorial waters for fishing operations, and our Coast Guard acted in accordance with the law. How can you speak of barbarism? It is you who turns a blind eye to the unlawful conduct of your own nationals, while unjustly criticizing our legitimate enforcement actions, which is utterly unreasonable." The young diplomat remained composed, yet all present could discern the firmness in his remarks. "You're grasping at straws." The Philippine official sputtered in anger. "According to international law." International law? Another representative from the Dragon delegation interjected with a derisive laugh. "Pray tell, which international law are you referring to?" As it appeared that the two sides were on the verge of a direct confrontation, the atmosphere in the conference room grew increasingly tense, as if the very air were about to ignite. "Silence." The head of the Dragon delegation, a seasoned director from the Asian Affairs Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, sternly intervened to quell the dispute. His calm gaze swept over the Philippine representatives, and he solemnly stated, "Gentlemen, we are here to resolve issues, not to engage in quarrels. Meaningless bickering will only squander our time. If your sole purpose in coming here is to vent your emotions, I suggest you find another venue." Under the director's authoritative intervention, the meeting finally regained a semblance of calm, and negotiations could officially commence. However, this so-called tranquility lasted scarcely 5 minutes, when the Dragon negotiating team, adhering to domestic directives and wearing smiles, proposed that the release of the 36 detained Filipino fishermen would require a payment of 100 million yuan in fines and compensation for each. The air in the conference room instantly thickened. Chapter 26. Ransom. With a price, the members of the Philippine delegation were initially taken aback for a few seconds. Then, as if struck by lightning, their eyes widened in disbelief. "What? 100 million yuan per person? Are you mad?" In the next moment, the entire Philippine delegation erupted like cats whose tails had been stepped on. Their nostrils flared in anger. Incredulity painted across their faces. This was extortion. It was blackmail. This was a flagrant violation of international law. "We shall categorically refuse such an absurd demand." The head of the Philippine delegation nearly roared. Observing the agitated representatives across the table, who resembled frightened monkeys in a zoo, the members of the Dragon delegation remained composed, even sporting faint, elusive smiles. "Gentlemen, please remain calm," the director of the Dragon delegation stated leisurely. "The compensation amount has been meticulously calculated based on various factors, including marine environmental assessments, losses in fishery resources, and enforcement costs. We deem it exceedingly reasonable." "Reasonable? Is this what you call reasonable?" The head of the Philippine delegation nearly leapt from his seat. At this juncture, negotiations had become utterly untenable. The Philippine leader, trembling with rage and disregarding even the most fundamental diplomatic etiquette, issued a threat. "You will pay for your arrogance and greed," before storming out with his team, resembling a child who felt wronged. The inaugural negotiation concluded abruptly, less than 15 minutes in, with the Philippine representatives departing in a huff. Witnessing their exasperated and disheveled retreat, muffled laughter erupted within the Dragon delegation's conference room. A young diplomat turned to the director, laughing. "Sir, I relish witnessing their futile attempts to rage while being utterly powerless against us. It is quite gratifying." "This is merely the beginning," the director replied with a subtle smile, organizing the documents on the table. "Their intentions are clear. Since they wish to play, we shall indulge them to the fullest." Meanwhile, in a fast food establishment in Haikou City, Chun Bei had just finished a bowl of beef noodles and was wiping his mouth with a napkin, preparing to leave. Buzz! His phone vibrated. Chen Mu glanced at the screen. It was an encrypted message from intelligence, succinctly stating, "The first negotiation with Singapore has collapsed. The Philippine representatives refuse to acknowledge any compensation liability." After reading, the message self-deleted. A negotiation failure was to be expected. It seemed the pressure applied was insufficient.